Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. Today, with a wonderful guest. This is long overdue. We should have done this a long time ago. With my friend Tal Linklat. How are you doing?
How you doing, man? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Very,
I'm
very good.
doing very well, very good. It's very nice to meet you. Finally, very nice to meet you. Very nice to get together. This should be
You
the
as well,
beginning
man.
of a good friendship and collaboration and connection. Because I see what you do and I love it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've been my audience has been so crazy about me collaborating with you for the last 3 months. I am so happy more than anything to meet you because I love your work as well. But my audience must be having just a full relief moment right now. Like, oh, it's finally happening.
That's very good. I saw lots of people mention you over the months. I think it started when before we went to Israel with David. I began seeing your name. Then when I was there, but then especially after we came back, I saw your name come up so often, and finally we connected thanks to mutual contacts.
Yeah.
And it's a great pleasure, very great
Yeah.
pleasure.
Big
I
shout
also
out to
recently,
Brian. Big
yeah,
shout out to
Brian.
Brian for connecting us. It's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Brian has been very, very helpful. I
Yeah.
recently saw a video from you. Actually, my wife showed it to me. She said, "Hey, you should watch this video by him." He went to a settlement to talk to people, and I looked at it and I thought, "Wow, this is awesome!" And it brought me back to when I was in Israel, and I so badly wanted to go back after watching that. Uh,
Did you get a chance to go to any settlements? Like, did you go to the West Bank when you were there?
I didn't. I didn't. I should have done it. The
You'll
thing
come
is,
with me. Next time you come, you should come with me. We should go on an adventure there.
yeah, we should. We should. I would love that. I am planning on going back to Israel, definitely, because when I was there, I was overwhelmed and I was amazed by Israel. I had my preconceived ideas about Israel, overwhelmingly positive, but when I was there, I was very much surprised. And on the flight back, I thought I don't want to go back. I just want to stay here and continue. And so I am working on going back to Israel for more in the future, and I definitely want to meet up and do stuff together.
I can tell you really embraced it with the big "Bring Them Home" shirt. You're wearing them again, David, on your, your
Oh yeah,
necklace.
yeah, 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 and also
Fucking
the
awesome, man.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
It's, much of it is kind of solidarity as well, because since October 7th, things have been crazy. This morning, I wake up and I open Twitter, and the first thing that I see is some neo-Nazi asshole actually praising Hitler and saying we warned the world and they didn't listen, and it has like thousands of likes. And I'm seeing this, and I don't know, just half a year ago, or a bit more than half a year ago, stuff like this was unacceptable. It was invisible. It was suppressed. People didn't have even those who were hateful and crazy didn't have the bravery to widely share their completely sick, messed up ideas. And now this is being normalized, and I see this every day now, and it makes me sick. It makes me absolutely sick, and I want to stand against it and support, uh, counter that, and support Israel and the people of Israel, Jews around the world, against this insanity. And I don't know, whatever I can do, I want to do.
Yeah, man. It's like growing up as a Jew. I grew up in America from an Israeli family. Like, my parents are Israeli, and we're Mizrahi. So it's one of the things I talk about most on my channel and in my content is being like a Jew of Iraqi descent. My grandparents were born in Iraq. The house I'm in right now, like the seat I'm in, was my grandpa's seat. He was a Babylonian Jew, and I've always felt my whole life being in America. I've always felt like othered. But it was funny. It's like my parents almost warned me that this day would come as a kid. Like, they always, as a Jew, you always grow up with this ideology of the world is out to get you, and it's not like some sort of random conspiracy theory or something. It's always been backed up with an element of truth. Whereas in Israeli, it's always been dangerous to travel or you can't go to certain places. But this day and October 7th happening and all the events that have happened since then, I'm obviously shocked, appalled, and disappointed. But I'm like, it's not like I didn't totally see it coming. Like I almost was told this was going to happen to me at some point, because it's happened to my grandparents, happened to their grandparents, and happened to their grandparents. You go back like thousands of years. It's happened to like almost every generation of Jewish people.
There is a point of comfort to be brought up, which is that yes, there is a lot of hate is trending right now. Anti-Zionism is trending right now. Islamists are at the forefront of this. The neo-Nazis are just jumping on whatever opportunity they can jump, because they are parasites. To be very honest, they are parasites. They don't have anything for themselves. Whenever they see something about Jews, they just jump onto it, no matter what it is. And then there is this socialist, leftist, progressive trend, especially among younger people. But one thing to feel comfortable with is that there was just a recent poll of Americans and where they stand, and there is overwhelming support, like 80% or so, I think, said they support Israel. So the world that you see on social media, on Twitter, does not very much reflect the reality of people who are actually who are at home, who are actually in charge, who actually are in politics, and so on. Unfortunately, those people on social media happen to be very loud with their toxic, with their perverted ideas, but the public very much, especially in America, still stands with Jews and stands with Israel. And ironically, in this case, it is actually the right that is significantly more in support of Israel, because of religious connections, and also of conservative ideas in general, and their dislike for the whole socialist and collectivist trends, which are very much against Jews and against Israel in today's time. So I don't know, seeing that gives me comfort that there is still a lot of support for Israel and a lot of support for Jews, and that makes me happy that I'm here in America. There are lots of places in the world where hating Jews and hating Israel is significantly more acceptable now, right now especially.
That's my main, like, I'll tell you what, as I've been traveling the world for the last 10 years. That's what my YouTube channel was about. Before October 7th, I'd been a travel vlogger. Like, my stuff only turned into about Israel content recently, since the war started. And it's really disheartening, because, like, what goes on in America and in the West, it doesn't really matter to me. Like, the condemnation that Israel gets amongst people in America and in the West and New Zealand and Australia and Canada, whatever, bro, you and I both know it's not a real condemnation of Israel. It's more just them wanting to fight for the underdog and not understanding. They perceive an underdog situation. They're like, okay, these Arabs, these brown people, these Muslims are like oppressed minorities, and like these white colonial Jews took over, and they're just condemning that. But like, they look at me and they see me and my story and my family story, and it breaks the whole narrative. So they just silence us and they push us to the side. But the ones that I am fearful of, it's the Arab world, the Muslim world, that hates us even more now. Where, like, I had a feeling just around 2 years ago when Trump was president, the Abraham Accords were in full swing. I was like, maybe there's actual change happening. Like, maybe we'll be able to normalize ties with Muslims around the world. But now it feels like we went 1,000 years back, you know?
Here's the thing. I always saw I saw the developments in the Middle East, in the Arab countries. United Arab Emirates, among certain countries, has been at the forefront of normalizing relations with Israel, and viewing Israel in a good way, because they are aware that they can't go on like this forever. They became relevant and actually rich beyond comprehension because of oil. Before that, it was all a worthless desert, and they have to change. They have to adjust, and they have to let go of this whole Islamic fanaticism and have to normalize relations. It did happen. Saudi Arabia has been jumping on that board as well. But I have, to be very honest, knowing the Muslim world, I haven't been very optimistic about that at any point, because I am aware of one thing, which is that as much as these governments are in favor of normalizing relations with Israel, the populations, especially the Muslim populations among them, are generally not okay with the idea. They still are anti-Semitic. I think in Saudi Arabia there was a poll where like over 90% said they are against the government's or against the kingdom's policies of normalizing ties with Israel. So unfortunately, this is a harsh and bitter truth. But in the Muslim world and in the Arab world, the relations and the views toward Jews and Israel have always been bad, and they don't get very much better. And there is a deeply seated hate toward Israel and toward Jews, no matter what you do, whether you are good or you are bad, whether you comply by their wishes or you don't comply by their wishes. It is very much the same, and the underlying hate against Jews, no matter if relations are normalized or not, is unfortunately always there, and it can always show its ugly face as soon as the opportunity arises. So, sorry to say, but I haven't been quite as optimistic about the whole change at any
No,
point anyway.
I feel you. I feel you, man. Like, and since all this is kicked off and I've been vocal about it, like people have gravitated towards me on my Instagram, on my YouTube, from like the Assyrian background, Mandean background, Coptic people. I knew that minorities were were threatened in the Islamic world, in the Arab world, but I didn't know to the extent that Arabism as a concept, like being an Arab, has destroyed so much of the Middle East and North Africa, history, culture, religion, cuisine. And it's like growing up and making content on YouTube. I've been doing YouTube for 10 years, since I was 17. I would upload like showing like eating shakshuka with my family in Israel or eating a pita with shawarma. And people would immediately be like, hey, asshole, you Jews are always stealing our Arab food. And I would always be like, well, maybe they have a point. But now I started realizing, I was like, man, Arabs literally colonized the Middle East. Like that's the most fun. It's the most crazy thing ever.
There is it is funny because they're saying oh, this is Arab stuff, that is Arab stuff, this is Arab thing, you're stealing our legacy. Many of the cultures who describe themselves as Arab are not even really Arab. They
Right.
became Arabized or Arabicized, whatever you want to call it. They were different cultures, different indigenous or otherwise mixed populations that were taken over by Arab imperialism, and Arab turned from a smaller culture into a large cultural group, which is why you can now see, I don't know, Moroccans, Tunisians, Egyptians refer to themselves as Arabs the same way that Yemenis or Saudis refer to themselves as Arabs, although these are all totally different. I mean, even Yemenis and Saudi Arabians are not of the same culture. They like Yemen has a long different background that is quite distinct from the Hijazi, the central or northern Arabian culture. These are very distinct cultures, but today it seems like they're the same. Just the way that these cultures and Egyptians or Moroccans seem to be the same. They are completely different, completely distinct, and they are subjects and results of Islamic and Arab imperialism and conquests. So it's very funny when they come out and say, oh, you are appropriating our culture. What culture?
Especially when they say it's Arab land. Like in my opinion, one of the pitfalls of Palestinian society as a whole would be like, this is Arabian land, this is Arab land. I'm like, the Levant, none of you Lebanese, Syrian, Egyptian, Jordanians, Palestinian, none of you guys are Arab. And that's why I think their countries are in such turmoil all the time, is because, man, they have a freaking identity crisis. These guys don't know who they are at a core. Like,
Yeah.
we Jews, with as much of a mess that it's happened, we know who we are because the world has always let us know. Like, they always let us know who we are. You're always remembered. You're always told you are a Jew. And that, like, at the very least, you could be an American citizen, you're still a Jew. But with these guys, like all these Arabs around the Levant, they must be in a massive identity crisis, not knowing at a core of who they actually are,
But you said you are Iraqi Jewish, right?
So the new framework of how I was not taught but told I should be representing it is that my family has had an experience in these countries rather than being Iraqi. Because truly, it's like I can't consider myself an Iraqi. Like our parents and our grandparents had an experience living in Baghdad and Basra and different parts of Iraq, but they were always treated as Jews. They spoke a different dialect. They didn't speak Arabic. They spoke a Jewish Iraqi dialect. They eat different foods because they didn't eat halal. They ate kosher. So it was very distinct. But yes, on my mom's side, my grandparents were Iraqi and Kurdish from the north of Iraq. And on my dad's side, they were Turkish. So I'm just like you. We're twins, right? You're Turkish, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was Turkish. My
Definitely.
dad's mom was Turkish, and my dad's dad was a really cool group from Azerbaijan and the Caucasus Mountain regions called
Oh,
Nashdidan, who they spoke Aramaic and they would just wander around this mountainous region. They never had a home.
the thing is, the funny thing is today, especially today, right now during this war, the conversation when people talk about Jews and who Jews are and how you are fake and you appropriate things and so on, they often want to talk about genetics and how, you know, genetically you descend from this and this and that. It's very funny because I personally think that genetics is not that relevant of an issue. And to be honest, when you look at traditional Jewish understanding, it didn't play that big of a role, as much as it plays today. But if you actually want to talk about genetics, Jews from Iraq are considered genetically very close to very, very close and very direct in terms of lineage and ancestry to Jews who were in the region, because they mixed to a much lesser extent with other people than many of the other populations did. So it's very funny when people look at you, for example, and say, "Oh, you are stealing our culture," because
Bro,
just genetically
I've
speaking, you
been
have a big
called
claim.
I've been called a white colonizer since October 7th. Me, bro. I'm darker than most Palestinians. I've been called a white colonizer. I've been told to go home. I'm like, where do you want me to go? Baghdad? I can't go back there.
This is the same thing that I brought up to I don't know if you know her Fleur, the deputy mayor of
The
Jerusalem.
of Jerusalem. I'm a huge
Yeah,
fan of her stuff. Yeah.
yeah. When I was talking to her, I asked her, "So, why are you as a white colonizer here in Jerusalem?" And he started laughing because she doesn't have she is quite mixed. She's of Sephardi origin and so on, and it is just ridiculous. I don't know that people get stuck on these things when clearly none of these people have a claim to be the indigenous people of this land, genetically undisturbed. If you looked at the genetics, you would find that that many of these people who claim to be indigenous to this land are heavily mixed and have ancestry in Africa, in South Arabia, in Europe, here and there. It's just all a giant mix. It doesn't even really matter that much. It is insane. I don't know the stuff that people the stuff of topics that people like to get into in order to discredit Jews. There is a fact, which is that Jewish people have a legacy, have a history that is very long. We can track you all back to the land that is now called once again the land of Israel, and that was also called the land of Israel in the beginning of the 20th century. People want to deny these simple facts and want to then hide themselves or get behind all kinds of different conspiracy theories of hate and accuse you of being white, but also of being Khazaris, and then also of being the ones who killed Jesus, and also of being it just doesn't make any sense at all. It is so ridiculous.
I'll tell you the way I see it though. Like for me, it clicked in my mind when I was like 19. I used to just do a lot of hiking trips around Israel, like walking around, exploring sites. It's so obvious, man. It's like when anywhere you see a Muslim site in Israel, for the most part, it's been built on a destroyed Christian site, which has been built on a destroyed Jewish site. That's one of the
Mhm.
things I showed in that video that your wife shared. It's like literally you see the layers. Like here's the Jewish site at the bottom, here's a Christian site on top of it, here's a Muslim site on top of it. When you go around digging in Israel, you don't find the word Palestine anywhere. You don't
Yeah.
find Arabic very often, and if you do find it, it's at a top layer. All the layers, the core of what this land is made up, is either Canaanite, Phoenician, something like really ancient, and a lot of fucking Hebrew. Like Hebrew everywhere. All these sites, man, they're all in like ancient Hebrew or in the Aramaic language or in the Samaritan language. It's all Judean culture and history, not Palestinian.
Yeah. One very funny thing is, before I went to Israel, I remember watching a video that was from, I think, from Pal Watch or something. They captured something from Hamas TV, from Gazan TV, where they are spreading propaganda to little children and telling these little children, the Jews, they are digging under the Al-Aqsa because they are trying to corrupt and hide the history, and they want to make the Al-Aqsa collapse upon all the Muslims and want to kill them all, and ridiculous stuff like this. And we went to Israel, and David and I actually joined Michael Rappaport. He had his bar mitzvah, and as part of that bar mitzvah tour, we actually went under the temple into the archaeological digging sites and all that, and had a giant tour there where they are very, very transparently showing what they're doing, showing how they are uncovering the history, preserving whatever they are finding, not whatever fits the narrative, but whatever they are finding, and putting it all on display. And I'm just contrasting what I see there of of Israel actually digging and uncovering the true history and preserving it in the best way possible with what Hamas tells children. But what Hamas tells children is what will get recognition on Twitter today and will be liked and shared by thousands because people are insane.
You see the same thing of like just like you said, all those Palestine Watch, Eye of Palestine Instagram pages. Whenever like a Jew, like just some Shlomo, just some rabbi goes up on top of the Temple Mount to go pray at his indigenous holy site, and they post it. Just literally, do you see like this little Jew walking around? He's just going around going to pray, and they're like, settler breaks into Al-Aqsa Mosque and rampaging through the compound. The comments are all like, Allah is gonna strike you down. Muhammad, the wrath of Muhammad is gonna get you. How could? And I'm sitting there like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what? How can you try to frame something so not violent? There's something so violent, and it's working. Like they buy it up. They love it.
Yes.
They love all that action.
Unfortunately, that's true. Tal, it's very good to have you here finally, man. Want to have you more in the future. And by the way, I'm not saying okay, we are done with the stream. Goodbye. I'm just remarking that because I feel good about it.
I thought the stream was ending for a second. I was like, oh shit.
No, Amit Yanuka became a member of the channel. Thank you so much, and welcome to the club and the cult. I call it a cult nowadays because that's what makes it good. Thomas Paris said, AAP, would you consider doing a video on claims of genocidal intent on the part of Israeli government officials? I could do that. It's a very interesting video, and these are things that people should be talking about. I could definitely go into that and talk about how there is no genocidal intent by Israeli officials in power, especially Israeli officials who actually have, like, there is this instance of them taking one person in the government as a response to a question, says, yeah, we could also nuke Gaza. And they're like, look here, this is their plan. Israel wants to nuke Gaza. This was said by somebody who has no authority, who has no control over military action, who has no control over the military operations in Gaza, who has no capabilities and nothing to say in this matter at all, and who was suspended, by the way, for that remark. But they're like, look, this is the true face of Israel, which they're trying to hide. They want to nuke Gaza. Why are they not just doing it?
It's a really shitty genocide. If it is a genocide, we're doing a very bad job. I'm sure you've heard this talking point before, but like the fact that Palestinian population has grown tenfold here
Yeah.
and globally, and also like highest quality of life for Palestinians anywhere in the Middle East. Not even in Saudi Arabia or in the UAE do they get treated the way they do in Israel. Highest quality of life is a really terrible genocide. Like,
yeah, I posted that before. There is you can find Human Development Index statistics, which show that the Palestinian territories have better life conditions than Lebanon, and then Lebanon, which under Hezbollah's leadership right now pretends that there is a genocide and oppression going on, actually has lower standards than the Palestinian territories, but they have better living standards than half the world, and significantly better, by the way, than South Africa, which also happens to be the country that goes to the International Court of Justice to claim that Israel is oppressing Palestinians and committing a genocide. What a big irony! This is insane. People there are not living in inhuman standards and are not, contrary to claims, forced to go out and kill civilians and rape them, because that's what happened on October 7th.
AP, did you see any of the videos of what Gaza looked like before the
Yes.
7th? Like
Yes.
my friend, he has a YouTube channel called Other Barak, and he did like a documentary, almost like a 2-part documentary, compiling all this footage of like.
Oh, I should look at that.
Yeah, it's a great video. He compiled all this footage of like what Gaza looked like before this. If you look it up, Other Barak, great video. He just compiled all this footage and did commentary about it. I'm like, dude, if there is a bigger scam, I don't know. You gotta point out to me of people saying the word concentration camp, people saying the words like people were starving. Man, they were having parties with knafe and baklava at 5-star resorts with sports cars and private jets, jet skis. I'm like, what kind of concentration camp is this? And could you have done this for my ancestors? Because that would have been very nice.
It was the best concentration camp ever.
Best concentration camp ever.
Is this the channel? Is this the channel? Other Barak?
Yeah. If you scroll down a bit, yeah, that's his channel. That's my boy. He has a channel. There you go, Gaza City. There's the part 1 there. It's a phenomenal video.
Oh, here, part 1
Yeah.
and part 2. I see. I'll check that out. 8 minutes and 5 minutes. I could review this. This would be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, definitely review it, man. He compiled all the footage because I have this theory. It's a video that I really wanted to work on for a while now. I had the title. I think it's a pretty genius title about Hamas's influencer program. Hamas has straight up kind of has like a army of influencers who have been like in the Gaza Strip since the beginning, and a lot of them have been like ejected out now, and like Moatz Aziza, I don't know if you know who he is, like got flown to America, and the girl Bai Plestia, she got flown to Australia. Like they left Gaza, no harm done, probably traumatized from the crazy stuff they saw, but like they all got taken care of, I'm sure, with a lot of Qatari money in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there needs to be a big deep dive on all these influencers in Gaza that are so they've been so-called like dying, starving, under persecution for the last 6 months, but somehow like haven't lost any weight, always have their phones charged, always have internet to upload their stories like in real time of what's going on. I'm like, it's a little fishy.
Yeah, I wanted to look at. I made a few notes to see when first the narrative came out that Gaza is on the brink of starvation or on the brink of famine. This actually started like 2 months into the war. So it started many months ago. We were told Gaza is about to run out of food. Gaza is on the brink of starvation. Imagine, I mean, it has been almost half a year, or so 4 months or more since it was first said that Gaza is on the brink of starvation and children are about to die. Nothing happened yet. It has been 2 months or so since the first reports came out that children are dying in Gaza and Israel is systematically killing children through starvation in Gaza. And the only thing they could post to support that was, to be fair, certain children that had conditions which required a very special and careful nutrition through hospital means, because they were born with conditions which didn't allow them to eat. Those children, 1 or 2 of them died, and that was their only evidence. And yes, war conditions cause major problems, and they did lose access to their local hospital, which, by the way, was under Hamas military operation, and these children were not properly taken care of and then died. But they used that as false evidence to support the false idea that Israel is now systematically starving and killing children, which Just, I mean, anyone who is a little bit intelligent should have noticed one thing, which is how in the world does Israel systematically starve the population and all of the children in Gaza, but everyone looks totally fine except for one or two children?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
But that's the Palestinian logic narrative. It's always been like this, dude. I remember this as a kid. Like I remember them saying and showing this stuff. They're killing us. They're murdering us. They're ethnically cleansing us. And it's like, man, then how do you have a like a high rise with an elevator and a Porsche and Lamborghini? It doesn't. The things that you're saying, your logic isn't logicking. It's not working. What you're saying.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense. It is ridiculously stupid. We are at a very, very silly point of this conflict at the moment, and it may look like one side is kind of dominating the global narrative against Israel, but they're just the loud ones. They're not the strong ones. And Israel, as far as it seems, as far as I'm concerned, will continue and finish the job that needs to be finished. Hamas needs to be destroyed. Otherwise, you will never have peace. There never was a possibility of peace with Hamas in existence.
I'll tell you what my fear is, though, man. Like, I feel like, first of all, when it comes to the media stuff, they've already won. Like, they won big time. Like, I know when you look at like the 80% of America that still supports Israel, that's great. But like, I think globally, we've lost face big time as Israelis. Like, I definitely don't feel safe traveling openly as an Israeli anymore. Luckily, I look very ambiguous. People just think I'm Indian half the time, so I just go around saying I'm Hindu, and as long as I'm not in like a very Muslim area, it's usually not a problem. But it's scary. We've lost face with a lot of people, I think, and that narrative, that image, they've totally won. And then as for the perspective of ideology with Hamas, man, I can't tell you, dude. Like, people use this narrative of like Hamas is only in Gaza. It's only in Gaza. I've talked about this very rarely, but I've sat with actual Hamas members in the West Bank. I got crazy invites 2 years ago when things were a little bit more peaceful to meet actual Hamas members in the West Bank. They are very popular in the West Bank. There's a lot of them. They're not as like mobile and they don't do as many operations, but I don't think it's an ideology we genuinely have the capacity to take on. I think we have to do what we have to do in Rafah. We have to do what we have to do in the Gaza Strip to clean it up, get the hostages out, whoever we can. But like, I think Palestinian society has been so militarized. It's so extreme for the most part in both the West Bank and Gaza. It's like, I'm not sure we can actually unwind the clock, you know?
There is a very important issue to point out, which is that yes, there is this whole misconception, this whole lie that Hamas is only in Gaza, which is not true. The West Bank is also plagued by Hamas, by Islamic Jihad, and by different organizations. However, in the West Bank, Fatah is in power, which is the recognized representative of the Palestinian Authority, which, by the way, was recognized by Israel a long time ago, contrary to popular anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist belief. The issue is, I would say, so this is a common theory, but I would say that the only reason that the West Bank is currently not rising up and creating chaos like Gaza is that Fatah, the ones in power, are afraid that if the population rises up, they will put an end to Fatah and will put Hamas or Islamic Jihad or another organization in power, because people don't like Fatah. And Fatah is no angel. Fatah is definitely not better. They are terrible. They are anti-Semitic. They are anti-Zionist. But one thing is true about them: they had negotiations with Israel in the past, and they were part of the peace process, which is why they are so unpopular, by the way, or one of the reasons why they are so unpopular. But they are corrupt, and they crack down and try to capture and torture Hamas sympathizers and other people in the West Bank because they want to prevent the actual popular Palestinian part, the Islamists, the Hamas supporters, and Hamas themselves from rising and putting an end to their power. So they actually rely on some sort of peace and on some sort of protection provided to them by Israel. They know very well that if things got out of control in the West Bank, they would be the first ones to lose power and to be had to be held to account and possibly publicly executed and lynched, and Hamas would take over and put an end to their dream of power. The West Bank is, in fact, the West Bank is more problematic ideologically than Gaza. You have polls in which like 56% or 60% of Gazans support terrorism, but over 70 or 80% of West Bank supports terrorism. So the West Bank is ideologically even more problematic than Gaza. It is a ticking time bomb. People just don't want to see it.
Yeah, and it's exactly what happened in Gaza, by the way. Like when we left the Palestinians to their own devices, that's what happened. Like Fatah and Hamas had a civil war. They killed a bunch of innocent people, and then Hamas took over, kind of democratically, but also kind of as a dictatorship. But in the West Bank, like when I've been roaming, I've been a lot in the West Bank recently. I made like a red heifer video, which you starred in briefly in the intro. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that video. I edited you very dramatically in the beginning with talking to David, and then I put a thunderbolt right after you finished talking to emphasize the dramas. I'm very proud of it. But when I traveled around the West Bank, speaking to all these people who are considered settlers, and they're literally waiting, man, for an October 7th to happen. Like they know it's what's knocking on their doorstep. Like, and those are the ones who live there. Like if we should trust somebody, it's the ones who are there. They are all armed because they're terrified of what's about to happen. They feel like a big attack or a big operation is going to be carried out against them, and they're the first line of defense against us in Israel proper. And that's what people don't understand. When you stand on the hilltops and you see all the settlements, quote unquote, the Israeli settlements, the illegal occupied settlements of Palestine, you see them on the hilltops. Men, when you stand on those hilltops, you realize why they have to be there. And it's because you have direct lines of sight, direct downward facing lines of sight to Tel Aviv, to Netanya, to Syria. If you wanted to fire a rocket like you do in Gaza, you don't have to go up and down. You just need to go down. It's so much easier. That's why you can't just have a Palestinian state right now roaming around the West Bank openly.
This is one of the reasons why I thought when I was there I should have gone to some of those places. The thing is, when I went to Israel, my audience knows this. David and we organized a fundraiser because I was actually told by someone, what's his name, by Joseph, Israel Advocacy Movement. He told me, hey, how about you go to Israel and see these things for yourself? And I thought, you know what, I think I'll do that. So he just gave me the idea, and I thought, yeah, I'll do it. David, do you want to go with me? And he's like, yes, okay, let's do a fundraiser. So we just independently organized this, and I did it without any organization, without any sponsorship or anything at all. Went there all by myself. Funnily enough, despite doing this very obviously on our own, people still said, oh, look, the Jews, they gave thousands of dollars to invite them and to create propaganda for Israel.
You took that dirty Zionist Mossad money. God damn it, AP! You took that dirty Jew money. You're never gonna be free now. You're gonna start growing reptile eyes.
I'm already growing a tail. I don't want to show it, but it's there. but yeah, I should have a sponsorship, or not a sponsorship, but a group that actually organized things properly for me to go and see. I think next time that I go there, I'm going to actually appeal to an organization to say, hey, can you arrange a proper trip for me so I can highlight all the most important things? And so I want to do that the next time. But that point about the settlers and why those positions are so crucial, that is a very important thing to bring up. You made certain videos on that where you also highlighted that as well, right? Where you went to those spots.
in that video that your wife shared on Twitter, which was so lovely that she shared that video. It was called Inside the Life of a Settler Woman. I was interviewing basically a few women who live in the West Bank, and about their experience of, like, one of them is about talking about the town of Shiloh, which was an ancient Jewish town, and you can see actually the layers of colonization. But like the other one was literally like a regional council woman for Binyamin, and she was showing us how, like, the town right across from the Jewish settlement is full of houses. like mansions. Nobody shows this on the news. Al Jazeera would never show it. The Al Jazeera only goes to the Palestinian refugee camps, the encampments. It's only the. Do you have this town? I think it was called Misabach or something like that, and it's full of mansions, beautiful houses, but no people. The thing is empty. No people at all. And you realize it's because all of it is made up by like Californian or American Palestinians who built houses just to grab the land, and they don't actually live there. They live in America and they come in vacation in Palestine occasionally. Who would have thunk that Palestine is a vacation destination? I always see that it's under war, it's apartheid. How could you possibly go vacation in Palestine? Please explain that to me.
Is this the one that we're talking about here?
This is literally the exact scene I'm talking about as well.
Yeah. So this is a very important thing. By the way, so settlements is one of the issues that is one of the most controversial issues that I often say. I don't want to say much about it because I don't know enough about it, or I don't have. I mean, I know the basics of it, but I don't feel equipped enough to go into a proper discussion or a debate on the settlement issue. But I know for a fact that it is one of the most controversial issues that people like to talk about. But what is your impression as somebody who went to the settlements, who talked to people and saw them? Is this like is this an evil thing to conquer land and take people's homes and oppress people and all that, or what is it?
You want to know a small world? You learn this in the Jewish circles. All Jews know each other pretty much. Joseph Cohen, the guy who gave you the idea to go to Israel, first time I ever went to the West Bank as like an adult on my own was with him. Ironically enough, we connected back in 2017, and we went down to the city of Hebron together to see a dual narrative Palestinian-Israeli tour about the city that's split in half. And he actually later on, I came to visit him in London, and he took me to Hyde Park to where Muhammad Hijab and all his gang of cronies do all their crazy debates. First time in my life I was called a Nazi was in that park. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Long story short, when I was there, back then, I used to have this ideology of, hey, maybe these people are like radical zealots, like they're religious fundamentalists, and they're doing this just out of spite because they hate Palestinians and they're racist. But nowadays, I'm not going to lie to you, there is a small minority of people who live in the West Bank who truly are racist, they are extremists, they do exist. It happens, they do exist. A vast majority of the people there, vast majority, and I have so many friends who live across the West Bank, whether it's in Ariel, in Binyamin, in outside of Ramallah, in Bet El, in a bunch of different places all around Jerusalem. A vast majority of them they are craving to live in peace with Palestinians. And I've platformed so many of them on my channel. I've made videos with them because to me, it's become a goal. Like, I want people to understand this isn't what the media is showing you. These people are not out to cleanse Palestinians from the area. In irony, they want to live with Palestinians.
Yes.
And another point to be made about this, and this is the part that sort of, it screws with me the most. And I don't know if you know this. You know all the houses and all those settlements that are scattered across Palestine, across the occupied West Bank? Do you know who built all those Jewish settlements?
Who built them?
Palestinians. Palestinians are the construction workers who are hired to build these settlements. So I'm always sitting there questioning myself, like, well, you can't also complain and also like want to ethnically cleanse these people while building the actual houses they're living in. And in the Palestinian perspective, I learned that the reason why they built, check this out, this is how crazy it is. And this comes also from a partly Islamic narrative. They build the houses so openly and are fine with the construction because they claim that one day Allah and Muhammad will liberate this land of the Jews and they'll take over the houses. How sadistic and insane is that? And it's a mainstream narrative. Like, I've been to Ramallah, I've been to Nablus, I've talked to Palestinians. I know a lot of friends who spend a lot of time in the West Bank. It is a mainstream narrative that they're one day going to take over these houses that they built for the Jews.
It is so absolutely messed up. To some people, all of this might be surprising. To me, it's not, to be honest, because I don't know how much you know about my background, but I grew up in a family that is very religious, and that was also extremely anti-Semitic. So I heard the worst things about Jews and about Israel and all that as I was growing up, including all these evil plots. While hearing that Jews are plotting against us Muslims, I sat in congregations where they were constantly talking about how Allah plots against the Jews, and the day will come when we will seize and kill all the Jews and all that. I remember sitting in a conversation with with a family friend and my father and others sitting there, and they were quietly. This was, I think, during one of the heightened times of this conflict. Um, they were talking about how the Jews know very well. The Jews, they know very well that the day will come when Allah will finally put the plan into motion, and the Gharqad tree will be the only thing protecting them, and all the trees and rocks will say, "There's a Jew behind me, come and kill him." Which is why all the Jews, they are currently secretly planting Gharqad trees and all of that. And it's so insane because then you go out there into the world and you ask Jews about Gharqad trees, and Jews are like, what tree?
Yeah, the tree narrative, like the whole us hiding behind the trees. This is really fucked up what I'm about to say, but I only learned this recently. I don't know if you saw. I'm sure you did. You saw a lot of the videos from October 7th and like what happened in the Nova Festival. Like on Twitter that day, there were Muslim groups and people cheering for obviously Jews being murdered. But when those clips were coming out of the Jews running behind the trees in that field in Nova, there were people literally quoting the Quran and the Hadith saying, "It's happening." And when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my God." It's what people like you who have a first-hand experience with this have been warning the world against. And it finally, like in my day and age, it finally happened. And it was like, oh my God, no, it's for real. Like these people actually want to see us be killed, like for real. They wouldn't have any remorse. They actually want to see it.
It's no joke. It's like I bring this up so often because people just don't want to really understand what this is about. But when we cite this whole idea of Muslims believing that, or Islam preaching that the Muslims will kill the Jews and they will hide behind rocks and trees, people think, oh yeah, well, this just seems like one of those crazy ideas. It's just like something that somebody at some point said. All religions have their problems. No, it's not like that. It really is not like that. It is significantly worse. And if you actually looked at the facts, you would realize how bad it is. It is so bad that this is not just some random teaching that some people at some point made up. It is actually it is a very important and very well-known teaching, supposedly spoken by Muhammad, as it is believed around the world, that the day will come when Jews will hide behind rocks and trees and Muslims will kill them, and only one tree will protect them. And this is a prophecy. And by the way, not just something that is written and that some people believe in. This is something that most Muslims around the world are aware of, that is always brought up, and also that was included in Hamas's very own charter when they created their first document, their first covenant to announce who they are and what they are aiming for. They put it out there very clearly that they are aiming for this promise when the day comes that they will finally fight and kill all the Jews, and even rocks and trees will help them. This is how sick and how messed up it is. And people don't like to see this. To my disappointment, when I was in Israel, not even Israelis, not even Jews want to see this. Not even they are aware of this. I saw that lots of people in Israel were very ignorant about about Islam and the beliefs of Muslims, and lots of Israelis and lots of Jews had this whole idea of like, oh no, it's not about religion, it's not about, it's not about this, it's not about that, it's fine, Islam can be peaceful and all that. I was a little bit in disbelief because these are things that I hear from Europeans, like from Germans or other Europeans. But to be there and hear this stuff from Israelis, from Jews, who are like the number one target of hate in the Muslim world, was a little bit insane to me. People need to understand this stuff more.
You say that, and I actually have like immense pride in that, but also like I'm also obviously disappointed that that's how we are. But I have so much pride in it because truly, man, like people like to claim as like some apartheid racist state. Like, bro, it's, you know, you've been here. It's so open minded. People really, that coexistence is so for real here. It happens so frequently, and you see it on your day to day. Like I was in Jerusalem all day today, pretty much. I was doing some filming. You see how Arabs and Jews coexist there in the old
Yeah.
city. You see it. You see it. This doesn't really happen in other places in the Middle East, you know, because there's not really many Jews left. They've been ethnically cleansed. But it's like this lie of apartheid and all this, and the way that Arabs and Muslims in general frame us almost like vermin, like trash. And it's
Yep.
so, it's held so dear. I only read the Quran and parts of it for the first time recently. I bought a copy when I was in Dubai and I wanted to read through it in English. And I was shocked by how much it targets Jews in the first like 20 pages, and like the children of Israel and Christians, how much it actually talks badly about Jewish people.
Yeah, it condemns Jews. It describes them as people who are mischievous, who are deceivers, who even try to deceive Allah and insult Him, and who will be the worst always and forever, and so on. And this here is, for those who do not know, Sahih Muslim is one of the foremost sources for things that Muhammad said and did. And in Islamic tradition, these reports are unambiguous. They are accepted as totally authentic, beyond doubt. And so according to these narratives, these are the words of Muhammad. The hour will not come unless the Muslims will fight the Jews and kill them, until the Jews hide behind a stone or a tree, and a stone or a tree would say, Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. But the tree Gharqad would not say, for it is the tree of the Jews. I heard this all my life. I heard this when I was a child. I remember, and I retold this to my audiences, to people who asked me, or even in videos myself. I was in first grade, I believe. I was a little child when I first heard this on a weekend when we went to a religious congregation. And I heard all kinds of things there about how these times might come soon and we will fight the Jews and we will kill them, and the prophet made this prophecy. And I remember on the next Monday, and I'm a first grader, I'm a little stupid child. On the first Monday, I go to school to some Albanian friend that I had there, and I'm telling him about these things and how these things will happen, and we have to be prepared for all that. And he was just looking at me like a little bit surprised, not knowing what to say. I was a child when I learned these things, because this is part of Islam, unfortunately. And it is a very bitter and very ugly truth, but it is the truth. It needs to be spread. People need to be made aware of it in order to combat these disgusting ideas, these disgusting beliefs. They need to distance themselves from this stuff and stop it.
I'm just happy, honestly, that we have a tree. I didn't know. I didn't know we had a tree. Gharqad, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gharqad for being a real one, baby. Gharqad, a real one, baby. We got a tree. We made it, Jews. We got a tree, baby.
There's one tree just for you guys, man. Like, I wish I was a Jew.
No, man, it's crazy. It's really crazy. I wasn't exposed to this stuff. And I grew up with Muslim friends, you know, like I grew up, like part of my life I lived in Israel, and I did grow up with Muslim friends. I have some very close family friends that are Muslim. It's just, I don't know, these things I didn't learn about till recently. Somebody wrote tree huggers.
Wasla says tree huggers.
Maybe Jews are the original tree huggers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jack 1-3.
Big your dong says the tree speak Yiddish.
Oh, that's good. Oh man.
This is good stuff.
Yeah, man.
The Jew tree. The Jew tree.
Maybe that's where the Christmas tree comes from. Maybe originally it was a tree. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard connections to that as well. Interpretations of this prophecy. You Gil Schuster, right? The guy who makes those videos of.
Very, very close friend of mine. We did the Red Heifer video together. I filmed
Oh,
that with him.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I love his stuff. Maybe we should connect. Actually, I love his stuff. I love how he goes and asks questions. I remember there was a video that he made years ago, upon requests, where he goes and asks Israelis about the Gharqad tree and if they're planting the Gharqad trees, and almost every single one he asks, almost every single Jew doesn't know what he's talking about. And you see the comment section. In the comment section, you have lots of Muslims saying, "Look, they know exactly what it is, but they are pretending they don't know." Oh my God! How do you reason with people?
AP, I messaged him like a month ago because 2 years ago. I'll give you some context. I used to watch Corey when I was a kid. I was like 15. I loved his videos. I don't get fangirly about YouTubers at all, but he was like, I'm a big fan of his work. I messaged him 2 years ago when I was in Israel, and I told him like I wanted to film some stuff with him. I wanted to do a ride along, and he actually answered me. I was like stoked, and for some reason, our chemistry when we shot together, great stuff. One of the best people I've ever like vlogged with. He took me to Ramallah, like to the main center of Palestine, like deep in Palestinian territory. And we did a video like him interviewing and asking Palestinian questions. And I saw firsthand what this guy has been through and what he's experienced in the last 12 years doing this content of like how actually extreme the Islamic society is. We were walking around Ramallah, and he chose this girl who looked super moderate. She looked like a city girl. She was dressed really nicely. I was expecting it to be a nice conversation. He asked her, "What do you think that we should do with people who insult the Prophet Muhammad?" And I'm sitting there I'm filming with my camera, and I'm like, she's going to be like, "Oh, maybe they should like be jailed or fined or something like that." She goes, "Kill him." And I was like, what? What do you mean? You don't match up to what you're saying. You don't look like the kind of person. And then I realized it's actually like at a societal level, very extremist there.
Yeah.
And I asked him to come with me to do the Red Heifer video. I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, would you come film this video with me? And on your channel, we'll do like a vlog on my channel. On your channel, you should ask Israelis about the Red Heifer." He went on the streets to ask people. Literally, nobody knew. Nobody knew. Most Israelis have no idea about these conspiracy theories that people put on us. Like literally, my mom doesn't know, my grandma doesn't know, my aunt does. I asked all of them. I asked all my family members. None of them have even heard about this theory. So it's not a common thing.
But why aren't you admitting that you Jews worship Ezra and say Ezra is the son of Allah, and that you also want to secretly take over the Kaaba and all that? You should be more open about these things that are actually true, and you are hiding them. I know.
We only reveal at the end of Passover once a year that we want to take over the Kaaba, but it's only once a year. So you missed the train. You got to come back next year for that one.
So here's the video that I mentioned by Corey Gil Schuster. Israelis, are you planting the Gharqad tree? Literally nobody in this video knows what the Gharqad tree is about. Like, what tree? Where is this? What is this tree? Where does it grow? Where can I get it? But if you check the comment section, the guy could ask the Jewish, "Did you guys kick Palestine out of their land?" And the Jewish would turn around saying, "Never heard of them." So this is implying that all these people are lying. If you ask a thief that you're stolen something, he will certainly say big no, also implying that people are lying. Faces and eyes tells everything, implying that they're lying.
The face and eye telling everything. That's so good. What confusion? Confusion is telling you that you know about this Gharqad tree.
Imagine somebody comes and asks you about something you never actually heard of, and you're like, "What?" And people think, "Look at his face. Look at his face. It's clear that he's hiding something." Here, Blitzkrieg says Israelis can act better than Hollywood actors. Nice expression. So, because they look very convincing when they say that they have no idea what you're talking about, that means that they are very good actors, not that they actually don't know what they're talking about.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's so ridiculous, man. That's why this channel is such a good. If you don't need propaganda, just go to Corey's channel and talk to Corey. Like, you should listen to some of the podcast. I'm not saying you specifically, but I would love to connect you guys when you come back to Israel. We should actually totally go on a ride along, the three of us, to the West Bank, so you can see firsthand, like when he interviews people, what it's like, because it's a crazy, man. But like his channel is such a good reference about what Israel is actually like on the ground. I can tell you firsthand, I've experienced filming with him in Palestinian cities and Israeli cities. He does not, there is no filter. He literally chooses someone off the street. He says, this one looks good. And he asks them a question. He doesn't cut, doesn't edit, nothing. It's as clean cut as it can be. It's the best possible survey about this country you could ever get.
And by the way, also very good and very insightful stuff. I think he recently published a video where he asked what should happen to Jews or if they support October. He asked Palestinians if they support October 7. And of course, the responses were overwhelmingly yes. And views about Jews are generally terrible. And views from the Israeli side are generally not quite bad. So it's a very good channel to go and have a deeper understanding on what Israelis and what Palestinians actually think, instead of trusting propagandists on Twitter, for example. So very, very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. I wanted to ask you something just a few minutes ago, and I forgot. Man.
Was it potentially about what's going on with the college campuses? I would love to hear your thoughts about what is.
We can do that. We can do that. Let me look at a few super chats here. There's a lot of super chats. Here's Mr. Bukhari made a super chat. This is funny. This is funny. This is Destiny on the profile picture with a beard and an Islamic.
Oh, nice! I didn't notice that. Nice.
Can't believe you didn't notice my profile pic, he says. I see it now. Jace the Shepherd says, AP, what is your thoughts on future of Islam's growth? I think that it is reaching a point where it's going to go into a sharp decline. Islam is not growing by conversion. It has, even when Muslims years ago claimed that it is the fastest growing religion because everyone is converting to Islam, many people pointed out, and I made 2 videos about this in which I showed the statistics, the information, that people are not converting to Islam. Islam is actually growing because of very high birth rates among Muslims, especially in underdeveloped countries. Birth rates will change as these societies develop, if they develop properly. But more and more people in the Muslim world are leaving Islam, and this growth of people leaving Islam is rising significantly faster, and it will go into a decline. And you can see it all over the Muslim world. You can see, look at almost every Muslim country reports that people have become less religious, and more people identify as non-Muslim. So I would say that that there is hope, to put it that way.
Well, it's actually fascinating that you say that, by the way, because I've connected with Iraqi Mandian for the last 2 years. We've been talking for a long time, and he claims the same thing. He claims that Iran are becoming extremely agnostic or atheist. They are leaving Islam in droves. They don't believe in it anymore, and it's collapsing. He says 50 years, the religion is gone. That's what he said. I don't think like that, but
Iran, especially the population of Iran, is becoming incredibly non-Islamic and non-religious, which is probably a result of the Islamist regime, the Islamic Revolution. They really, through their mistreatment of people in Iran, really made Islam unpopular in Iran. So the people are turning away in droves, in masses. It's amazing to see. There were polls where most people don't even really believe in basic Islamic teachings. They are shutting down half the mosques in the country because nobody's going to the mosque anymore, and so on. It's really fascinating stuff. Earlier, by the way, somebody asked about data on my whole claim that West Bank is more problematic. Here is one poll that I posted a while ago that I would like to mention. I said Gaza is diluted, but many of them now say October 7 was a bad idea. Meanwhile, the West Bank, which is not experiencing the consequences of the terrorist attack, overwhelmingly thinks it was a good idea. Easy to say when you're not on the suffering end. But this is a poll which was actually taken by the Palestinian Center for Research, I think. And you can see here, in your view, given what happened after it, was Hamas's decision to launch its offensive against Israel on the 7th of October a correct or incorrect one? In the West Bank, 82% say it was a correct one. 12% say it was an incorrect one. Look, compare that with Gaza. In Gaza, 57% said it was a correct one, 37% said it was an incorrect one. Just looking at this, you can see that people in the West Bank are even more in support of October 7 and violent acts than people in Gaza, who are very much almost, almost at 50%. So the West Bank is very, very, very problematic. We are talking
very,
about
very,
Gaza.
very, it's super disheartening to see that, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't really know what to expect at this point, considering the second that we gave, like, the IDF gave Palestinians the right to go back to the north of Gaza, they started firing rockets again towards Ashkelon and Sderot. Like, it was almost immediate. I remember the day it happened. It was like a couple weeks ago. The IDF pulled out of the north of Gaza. They let Palestinians go back. Immediately, Hamas started firing again, and immediately Palestinians were cheering all over in the West Bank, in Gaza Strip. Like, as destroyed as Gaza is, and I've seen it with my own eyes now a few times because I've been right at the border. As destroyed as it is, to sit there while Hamas is firing rockets into Israel, knowing that there will be an Israeli strike after, is sadistic in a manner I cannot even explain. It's psychotic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people don't understand it. People don't get it. People don't like to see it. You have further, not to say that Gazans are totally fine. Here is, according to a study, Gazans give Abbas just 33%, while 64% would vote for Hamas's Haniya. So if they could vote between Fatah's Abbas and Hamas's Haniya, 64% would vote for Hamas in Gaza. So Haniya leads more narrowly on the West Bank, but still has 50% to 43%. So here is an interesting twist. If they are between Hamas and the Fatah, they are still for Hamas, but less so than Gaza. That is an interesting perspective. But yeah, so it's not like Hamas is just the only problem, and once Hamas is gone, everything will be okay. It's more complicated than that. It is all very, very much deeply rooted in the society that we are dealing with. Here is another thing which never got lots of attention, probably because it's a document that is hard to read and that is originally in Arabic. I posted this back in October. Here is Fatah, the supposedly secular, peaceful party in the West Bank. They published a document on October 20th to instruct mosques in Jerusalem to preach to Muslims. And among the things that they are preaching, this is, by the way, again, to emphasize, organized by Fatah. Among the things they are preaching is number 6. The hour will not be established until the Muslims fight the Jews, so the Jews will hide behind stones and trees. And the stone or the tree will say, O Muslim, O servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. Except for the Gharqad tree, for it is one of the trees of the Jews. What we just mentioned. This is directly given as an instruction by the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, by Fatah, to mosques. So it's not just Hamas. It's also Fatah. It is Palestinian organizations in general. There is not much hope, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, people think that there's elements of Palestinian society that are less radical or less Islamic that might give minorities a chance. But this is my issue, man. Like, when people are always like, two-state solution, we need a Palestinian state. You tell me the honest justification to adding in another Arabic ethno-state, another Islamic state into the world, into the Middle East. Where is the actual justification, knowing that it's going to be ruled like shit, it's going to be an Islamic supremacist society, an Arabic supremacist society, and that minorities are going to be persecuted? Like, where's the actual justification? They're showing you in every organization, whether it's Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Fatah, Hamas, whatever it is, they're showing you their receipts the way that you are right now. They're showing you, here's what we want to do. Give us the land. And we're just supposed to be like, all right, fuck it, take it. Here, go, do your thing.
Yeah, and there's even Another important thing when we talk about the two-state solution, right? There was a poll even before this war, which I also showed again on the channel and on Twitter. So here is from a poll that is by the Washington Institute and the Palestinian Research Organization. It's a joint poll together taken. They are asking. Wait a minute. Is able to negotiate a two-state solution? Oh yeah, these are West Bank and Gaza respondents. Let's look at the West Bank. So it says, if the Palestinian leadership is able to negotiate a two-state solution with Israel, do you think that this should be the end of the conflict, or that resistance should continue until all of historic Palestine is liberated? I'm not sure what exactly happened in 2018 here, but you can see that throughout the years, the majority, red, says resistance should continue until all of historic Palestine is liberated. So they are asking these people in the West Bank, if you finally have a two-state solution, would that be the end? Or do you want to continue until you destroy Israel and take all of the land? And the majority says, oh, this won't be the end. We will continue until we take all of the land. So why in the world would you make a two-state solution with these people who say we want to destroy you and take all of your land?
There's literally no justification. There's zero rational claim to do it other than just trying to appease, I don't know, the U.S. at this point with the weird dream of a two-state solution, just to like broker the points of like, we did this. It's what we know what's going to happen. They will attack us again. They will,
Yes.
and at this point they might have an army, and it'll be even scarier, but they will 100% attack us again if they receive statehood. It's a guaranteed fact.
But hey, why don't you just give these people who want to kill you all, estate and military and all the means with which they can destroy you? Maybe then they will be like, oh, hey, thanks. We like you now.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate the technology and the money. We'll show some restraint now. Thank you so much. Sorry.
This is just only Israel in this entire world. Only Israel is expected to agree to such ridiculous conditions and to accept and give a recognition to the very people who want to destroy them. No other nation in the world is held to these accounts, to these standards. Only Israel. Only Israel. It's because
Yeah,
Israel is a born select cry.
You see it across the UN. I've seen it my whole life, man. I remember in 2017 or 18, there's a mountain in the Golan Heights. It's called Al Bental Mountain, and they have the UN the UN bullshit peacekeepers who stand there with their stupid magnifying glasses, and they look over the border of Lebanon and Syria, and they just jot down notes, and they don't do actually anything. And I remember seeing them there, and I spoke to these guys. I think one of them was from Australia, one was from New Zealand, and one was like from Denmark or something. And I was asking, I was like, so what do you guys think about everything that's going on here? And they're like, I asked them, what do you guys actually do here? And they were like, well, pretty much just, we pretty much take notes on what's going on. And especially when Israel does any sort of aggression towards like Syria or Lebanon. I'm like, excuse me. It's like, as they're saying this, I can hear the Syrian civil war. I'm not joking. I have a vlog of this on my YouTube channel from 2017. I can hear the bombs and the grenades going off in Syria from the top of this mountain. And they're talking to me about how they're writing down reports if Israel encroaches into there's a 6-mile boundary because of the agreement to Lebanon into Syria. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But this is what's been happening. And people have been calling out, people like Hillel Neuer, who has the organization UN Watch, have been doing such an amazing job keeping the UN accountable, but literally nobody cares. It's the craziest thing. No one cares what atrocities the rest of the world commits, or what border skirmishes there are, what's human rights violations. Unless it has to do with the Jews, unless it has to do with Israel, it's not important. It doesn't matter to anyone.
It's because in this case you have one side that is the actual bully, but that always plays the victim and always cries and always acts like they are the ones who are being attacked, while they are actually on the offense. And they are very high in numbers, which is why they can bully the rest of the world into accepting their their point of view. And this is why, look, you said to me personally that you heard a lot of people speak about me, for example, or us in Israel. When I was there, I got a lot of a lot of love from people in Israel, from regular people, from important people, just in the warmest and best way, just saying thank you so much for coming and doing this and for supporting us in this time. And that just made me understand what the situation actually is, because when you look into the world and how people talk about Israel and Jews, they make it look like Israel is this big genius superpower that is ruling the world and pulling the strings behind the masses, and that can do whatever it wants. It controls all the media and all the narratives and all of that. But that's not what's really happening. What's really happening is that these big cry bullies are actually crying and bullying the world into submission and trying to dominate the narrative. And with their attempt to dominate the narrative, are trying to make Israel and Israelis look like they are losing this conflict. And it genuinely looks very, very messed up at the moment. And I see how important it is to support the good ones, the right ones, the righteous ones in this conflict. And that's why I want to do whatever I can do to support Israel and the Jewish people. Because on the other hand, you have Islamist hate mongers, you have Nazis, you have those who blindly support them while thinking that they are actually standing up for the oppressed, which is just a ridiculous idea. If you want to stand for those who are actually under attack and who are doing so well in the face of it, stand with Israel, stand for Israel, support Israel. The other side is not quite as friendly.
Actually, it's really heartwarming, man, to hear you say this stuff. Not even in a cheesy way. Actually, I as an Israeli, as a Jew, I genuinely appreciate it. And something you touched on there, which I think is really important. I don't know if you've talked about this in your streams before, because I haven't been able to see everything you made, but and I'm not sure if your audience has ever seen this, but you touched on something really important. This dual-faced narrative that the Arab world, and most particularly the Palestinian world, shows us. I was just in Nazareth the other day with some friends, and I have a video coming out tomorrow about how Islam is essentially taking over what was once the most populous Christian city in Israel. And what they show you in the English news about how they are oppressed and what Israel did and all this, when you go into the same news sites in Telegram in Arabic and you translate it, you get a totally different narrative. In English, it's all there to appease the West. We're the underdog. We're being oppressed. When you go to the Arabic version, it's all victory to Islam. Look what the martyrs did. This is what we're doing. There's more coming. I'm a part of all these Telegram groups. And a friend of mine just showed me, he was showing me the Jenin Arabic Hamas supporter groups in the West Bank. And it's all like victory to Islam. Hamas has more coming. It's all like embellishing more and more. Islam is going to win. Palestinians are going to win. But in English, it's just showing you, oh, we're in pain and we need help and we need aid and all. It's two completely different faces.
Mm-hmm. I highlighted on a very small aspect on Ramadan, for example, the first day of Ramadan in the English-speaking world, all you saw on social media was like, oh, this is the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan. This is a very special time. It's a time for peace. Ceasefire now. We are being attacked, and please stop the suffering and all that. And then you go on the Arabic-speaking sites and you look at you can all follow it. Nowadays, you can go on Telegram actually, and you can follow Hamas's official Telegram channel, and you can use a translate function, a translate button, and see what they're doing. On Ramadan, they were saying this is the time to be proud and to go on the offensive and to fight for Islam and to wage jihad and defeat the enemies of Islam. We are winning and we will soon defeat the enemies, and so on. This was the general narrative. In the English-speaking world, as you say, perfectly put, they are like, oh no, peace, we are the victims. In Arabic, at the same time, they say, we are winning and we will humiliate them. Victory is soon. This is how it is. And it's just a shame that the world doesn't want to see it. This is how
Yeah,
it
for
is.
anyone in the West yelling ceasefire, who's been begging ceasefire, I promise you get my personal guarantee, in Arabic media, the word ceasefire has not appeared
Yeah,
once since October 7th. The concept of ceasefire doesn't exist in the Islamic Arabic world, because it would actually be you can probably vouch for this. It'd be like you're losing. It's like a lack of respect. You
yeah,
can't do a ceasefire against the enemy. No way. It's fight till the end, become a shaheed.
yeah. Ceasefire is seen as a sign of weakness in the Muslim world. That is a good point. That is an accurate representation. In the Muslim world, asking for a ceasefire or for peace with Israel would be considered a sign of submission, a sign of weakness. It is unacceptable. You can't have that. The general idea is fight, wage war until you win, because you are the righteous ones and Allah is on your side, and you will win, and you will take all of the land, and you will drive out those Zionists and those filthy Jews, and it will all be Islamic again, and this will be the rise of Islam once again. This is the general narrative. This is the narrative in the Islamic world. It's it is another issue, by the way, also connected issue here, is in the West, because the Western world has this whole narrative of oppressor and oppressed, and colonizers and indigenous people. In the English-speaking world, they are always trying to spread this whole idea that, oh, the Palestinians are actually the indigenous people of the land, and the Israelis are colonizers who are oppressing the indigenous people, and the Palestinians are not even Arab people. They're local indigenous people who have been there all along. This is not a narrative that you hear in the Arabic-speaking world, in the Muslim world. This is not a narrative that you hear in the Palestinian world. This is not something that exists. In fact, Hamas, the very group in charge, has repeatedly expressed that they are just Arabs, connected and related to all of the Arabs around the Muslim world, descendant from people who are Arabs in Egypt, Arabs in Saudi Arabia, Arabs in Yemen, and so on. This whole idea of, oh, we are the indigenous people, it doesn't exist in the Arabic-speaking world, in the Muslim
You
world.
have to. I need whoever's listening right now. I really need you to listen carefully to what I'm going to say, because I learned this recently. The concept. If you don't know what Phoenicians or Canaanites are in a biblical, like, Judeo-Christian Islamic narrative, the Canaanites were known as like the worst of the worst when it came to idol worshippers, child sacrifice. They were like the polytheists, the what's the word? The starts with a P as well. Uh, where you worship idols. Man, I'm forgetting the name. Pagans.
Yeah.
They were like the worst commit in Arabic media. There is no Palestinian that says they are Canaanites. They will never say they're indigenous Canaanites. That would be an embarrassment, because that would mean that they came from a lineage of people who are literally idol worshippers. In the biblical narrative, the Israelites, Bnei Israel, which is mentioned in the Quran, defeated those people and kicked them out of the land. That's how the Jews ended up like taking over Canaan and turned it into Judea.
Yes.
And it's seen as a liberating thing. If you were to tell a Palestinian in Arabic that they are Canaanite originally, they are the people who pray to Marduk and all these deities from Babylon and Mesopotamia, they would spit on you in the face. They would tell you, who the fuck do you think you are, calling me an idol worshiper? But in English,
Precisely.
it's like, of course, these are the indigenous people. They were native to the land. They were there. There's a meme that I love from Palestinian media, which was like the Palestinian foreign official office. He was like, Palestinians have been on this land for 1.5 million years, and then it's just the Jurassic Park song, or all these dinosaurs dancing to and Tami Falastini, and it's all these dinosaurs doing the daka. It's a hilarious meme. It's one of my favorites.
It's funny, because if you actually go to one of my favorite Hamas individuals is Fatih Hamad, who is also in charge of Al-Aqsa TV and anything that comes out there. I say favorite because he's actually one of the worst, but he has a very big mouth and a very loose tongue, and he just says lots of things out loud that shouldn't be said, including in a few years we will eradicate the Jews and start a caliphate and things like that. Like, these are things that he actually said in public squares to the Palestinian people, like to the people of Gaza. But he also said in a speech where he was crying for support from the Arab world that they are Arabs who come from different parts of the Arab world. In fact, let me bring this up here. I think I got it. Yep, this is it. So here he is appealing to the Arab world to show support and pay attention to what he says, where they come from. We have blood ties, so where is your affection and
قد تربطنا قرابات ولذلك أين المودة أين الرحمة. أنا شخصيا نص عائلتي مصرية كلنا ويمكن بيجي حوالي أكثر من 30 عائلة اسمها المصري. في أساسنا نص فلسطين يا أخواننا مصري ونصها سعودي. إيش من هم الفلسطينيون؟
Did you see that? Did you hear that? Half of Palestinians are Egyptians, the other half are Saudis, according to this guy. Now, I don't trust that this guy is actually accurate about the origins, because it's probably more complicated. But this is the idea in the Arabic-speaking Hamas world, and he continues.
إيش من هم الفلسطينيون؟ في عندنا في أسماء كثيرة اسمها المصري وجذورهم مصرية. قد يكونوا من الإسكندرية، من القاهرة، من دمياط، من الوجه البحري، من أسوان، من الصعيد. نحن مصريون، نحن عرب، نحن مسلمون، نحن منكم. الله أكبر، الله أكبر والله الحمد. الله أكبر. كيف تسكتون؟ كيف تسكتون؟
Allah! Allah!
We are all Arabs.
I get so fired up, man. I get so fired up when I don't know why. There's some primal thing that comes out of me when I hear Allah. I just fucking wanna, whoa. I'm gonna be put on some list, man. I'm talking to you and I'm doing this. Someone's gonna come for me.
But hey, you see this, right? This guy is firing up the Arabs so much that even Talhias gets fired up, saying, "We are Arabs. We are from you. We're Arabs. We come from Egypt and Saudi Arabia." Man. Anyway.
It's a known thing though in the Gaza Strip. Like most of the family names, 80% of the people in the Gaza Strip, it's a known thing that many of them came from Egypt, but also like so many people during the creation of the British Mandate of Palestine immigrated from Jordan, from Syria, from Lebanon. A lot of the Arabs in the north are ethnically Lebanese people. And they came here for better job opportunities because the Zionists that came here in the early days between like the 1890s to the 1930s, they renovated the land. They cleared the swamps. They got rid of malaria. Not Malaysia. Should maybe get rid of Malaysia, but malaria. And they just like they reformatted the land. There were job opportunities, and nobody talks about that stuff. Like nobody wants to talk about the fact that there was tons of land purchase ownership under the Ottoman Empire between Jews to Arabs, Jews to Muslims, and the fact that many people immigrated here for job opportunities. Like it's just convenient to just erase that for some reason.
Yes. There is a book which very briefly covers the history of the land in terms of economy, but I think it's called The Economic History of the Middle East, 1820 to 1914 or something like that. It's an academic book, and it actually covers an aspect very well, which is that around the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, the turn, the Middle East, the Muslim lands, they were in a very sharp decline in terms of the economy and the living standards. The Levant, the land then also known in the West as Palestine, the land of Israel, was economically in a very poor condition and very heavily underdeveloped. The coastal area was disease-ridden with malaria, as Tal mentions. It was very much barren land, and very much land where not much was growing, where not much was going for them, because it was a center for chaos as well. It wasn't flourishing. The Zionist movement, especially around 1880s, and especially around the 1899 and then the early 20th century, and then again during the 20th century after 1920, under the British Mandate, brought life to this land, brought flourishing to this land, turned this land into a jewel, made it grow, got rid of the diseases, turned it into a proper place where cities came into existence, where life came into existence. And now the Arab population, now certain Arab populations come and say, oh, this is our land, we built it, we want it. Excuse me, but if you now, after all of this, want to come and say this is ours, we want it, get out of our land, then you are actually unrightfully claiming and stealing what the Jews, what the Zionists built. Because before the Zionists built it, it was trash, it was underdeveloped, it was undesirable.
I mean, the Ottomans treated this place as an actual dump, and something I have to say this because I say this anytime I get an opportunity to talk to a group of people about this. This is a fact that nobody knows about, this came from a lot of nuanced research. Also, my uncle is a tour guide in the north of Israel. He used to do safari trips before the war, and we've spent time in the north. I'm a huge animal lover, huge fan of wildlife. You know, Israel is in this particular position where it's the land bridge between Africa and Asia. It's an amazing position, and the wildlife that crosses through here. We had things from cheetahs to giraffes, elephants, bears, crazy wildlife all across Israel. You know who destroyed the wildlife? The Ottoman Empire used Israel, what was back then as Palestine. They used that as actual hunting grounds, documented in their tabos. They have it saved in so many different books online. You have to look it up to get the information. But you know how much wildlife was cleansed from here because of the hunting grounds of the Ottomans. Now, I can't blame them because it's a more primitive society, right? Like every single empire at some point did this hunting and gathering and destroying of the natural world. But for all the people that are on the left that are so like ecological savvy and all about sustainability, they're preaching pro-Palestine, it's like, do you know what under Islam, under these caliphates, was done here in this land to the natural world? You know how it was destroyed? It wasn't a dump before, huh? Like when the Arab conquests happened here, there was a golden zone, and then there was a very long shit zone where this place was treated as a hunting ground and a dump, and that's it.
There's also the land known as Palestine under the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't a very popular land. First off, the Ottomans didn't even officially call it Palestine. They didn't call it Palestine. It fell out of use. It was so the Romans called it Syria Palestina to suppress the Jewish identity. They were the ones who actually called it the province of Judea, and then they changed it after the Bar Kokhba revolt into the province of Syria Palestina to spite the Jews and to suppress their identity. The Byzantine Eastern Roman Empire continued that use into Palestina, and they separated into Palestina 1, Palestina 2, Palestina 3, and so on. When the Muslims took over, when the Arabs took over, they did use the name, but it became less and less popular. Under the Mamluks, I think it stopped, but the Ottomans never officially used the name Palestine as an entity to refer to that region, or Philistine or whatever it is. They separated it into different districts, where Jerusalem was its own separate district, its own entity, and Gaza, especially the south, very funny. It was always a problematic and very unpopular place under the Ottoman Empire, because it was a place that was contested between the Ottomans and the Mamluks, then between Ottomans and this whole idea of a separate Egypt, where the Gazan population was kind of riled up to become part of the Egyptian entity, not part of the Ottomans. So there were lots of riots and uprisings against the Ottomans, and the Ottomans would go in there and beat everyone down and try to subdue them and bring order, and so on and so forth. So it wasn't even until the British that the British came in and took the land and renamed it into, as they used it in the West, into Palestine. They were the ones who drew the borders of it and gave it the name Palestine. Before that, there wasn't even such an idea, such an entity for the people living there. So this whole idea of Palestine, or the history of Palestine, it is very much adopted from Western people, from their naming of the region. Yeah, from the colonizers. It was a colonizer's idea.
Have you ever seen a picture of a Palestinian meal? Do you know what that is?
Palestinian meal, sir?
MIL.
No.
Do you mind pulling up a picture real quick? It's just I think it's really important. I carry this around in my wallet. I've carried this around for almost 10 years as I've been traveling. I'll show it, but maybe
Okay, yeah,
this,
I have actually. I have, yeah.
in my opinion, this is one of the most like important. You probably can't see it from, or maybe you can, but if you pull up a picture, it might be better. This
Yes.
was the currency for people who don't know. This was the currency of the British Mandate of Palestine. I have two coins here. One's from 1927. The other one is from 1946. Yes, beautiful. Yeah, that's the exact one that I have. Amazing.
Yeah.
This right here, in my opinion, is one of the biggest proofs. And I've seen this YouTuber. I always call him out. His name is Golden Gully. He's a Pakistani food YouTuber who's super anti-Israel. He's preached some disgusting, like, anti-Jew, anti-Israel sentiment since the war has begun. And he wears a T-shirt of this shirt. And he's Muslim, of course. He wears a T-shirt of the shirt, and I'm always like, dude, what the fuck? Do you know what you're wearing on your shirt? Most people don't know this. This right here, the coin, says Palestine in 3 different languages. It says Palestine in English, then in Arabic it says Palestina, and then in Hebrew it says Palestina. But there's a parenthesis right next to the word Palestina, and it says Aleph Yud, the letters in Hebrew Aleph Yud, which stands for Eretz Israel. So even back then, during the British Mandate of Palestine, this was always, there was never a point in history and time where this land was not commonly referred to as Israel or Judea, ever. It never happened.
In fact, this was decided in, I think it was part of the 1922 declaration of the mandatory Palestine by the League of Nations, where it was officially recognized in writing. It was officially recognized that the land would be known in as Palestine, and in parentheses as Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, abbreviated as Aleph Yud. So that this was actually internationally recognized. It was internationally recognized by the League of Nations and by by Great Britain, because the idea was that this is the land of Israel as the Jewish people see it, and it serves in order to recreate the Jewish homeland and to recreate a Jewish state. So this was, as early as the early 1920s, recognized internationally. So when people go to this, I also made a post about this using a different coin here a while ago. I pinned this. I should probably make another one. I should probably make a video on this. But I used this very same thing here and highlighted these parts. You can see here Palestine in Arabic, Palestine in English, Palestine in Hebrew, and then the same thing here again, Eretz Israel, Aleph Yud, which was officially, and these were printed under the British Mandate. This was not just fabricated by Jews or whatever. It was printed. It was done under the British Mandate, and they recognized it this way. It was the land of Israel for the creation or recreation of the Jewish homeland. And one very important thing to recognize is also the document itself. And I want to actually pull it up if I can quickly find it. Here, the Avalon Project is a very good website which summarizes, which has a lot of the documents of the League of Nations and the United Nations. You can find the declaration issued in 1922 right here, the Palestine Mandate, the Council of the League of Nations, and it says something very important here. It says here, right at the beginning, whereas recognition has thereby been given to the historical connection of the Jewish people with Palestine and to the grounds for reconstituting their national home in that country. This was the whole purpose of this Mandate of Palestine. This document was issued by the League of Nations, which is what was in the place of the United Nations. This was the international goal of this whole entity, to create a Jewish homeland. So whenever people refer to this mandatory Palestine and say, look, there was a Palestine, what they're actually talking about is an entity to create a Jewish state, once again, known as Israel. That's that. These are the facts. You can't argue against the facts.
Well, no, you know what, AP, you know what people will say, though? They'll say that No, this is all propaganda. And at one point, Jews and Muslims and Christians, they all lived 100% in peace in Palestine. And I
Yeah.
just sent you a link, I sent you a link on WhatsApp of, it's a great list that was made by medium.com that shows you literally a documented list of all of the massacres that happened in between the different caliphates that existed here, all the way until modern statehood of Muslims against Jewish people in the state of Palestine. So if anybody for 1 second wants to flip that on its coin and say, yeah, Jews lived in Palestine, but everybody, it was all peaceful until the Fire Nation attacked, until the Zionists came in and started making a mess and started causing issues. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Big no, no. Muslims have been committing atrocities against Jews inside and outside of the Arab world and inside of Israel proper for literally 1,000 years.
This here's lots of people who know my content, which is about Islam mainly, will be aware immediately of this. Ethnic cleansing of Jews from Mecca and Medina. Jewish boys were publicly inspected for pubic hair and executed if they had any. So this was primarily Medina. Medina was a
Oh my God, what?
it was known as Yathrib, and was a city that was very funny, also built and brought into flourishing by Jews. Muhammad came, took over. He built his first Islamic state there in Yathrib, which came to be known as Medina. And he had all the major Jewish tribes. There were three main large Jewish tribes. He had them expelled or executed under different pretenses. And what was done was, especially against the one tribe, the Banu Qurayza, under the idea that they betrayed the Muslims and collaborated with the polytheists, the entire tribe was brought forth. All the women were taken as slaves. All the adult men were executed. And all the boys were inspected based on whether they have pubic hair or any development. And anyone who did was also executed. The rest was taken as slaves. And a complete eradication of a tribe, collective punishment, based on the allegation that they collaborated with the enemy. The other ones, the Banu Qaynuqa and the Banu Nadir, also major Jewish tribes, were also eventually punished for different pretenses and expelled and partially killed. But yeah, no, it was all within reason. Yes.
These Jews being look at this, man. It's the list drives me crazy because it's so well documented, and it's like, I mean, my family was directly a part of it. The Iraqi Farhud that happened in 1941. People are like 1948. That's the only reason why Iraqis kicked the Jews out. I'm like, no, baby. 1941, the Farhud happened. My family was directly involved in that. I have the stories. I was recording my grandpa, his family, my whole life about what they experienced in Iraq. One day they woke up. Doesn't matter. They were no longer Arabs. They were no longer Iraqi. They were Jews, and they needed to get the fuck out. That's it. They're done. They cannot live in Iraq anymore. And it's like, man, it riles me up. It drives me crazy when these people in the West are sitting there saying, like, you ethnically cleansed, you colonized, you white colonizer, you genocider. I'm like, man, the only genocide that's happened here was against Jewish people in the Middle East. It's clear as day. I mean, there's tons of ethnic minorities like the Copts, the Assyrians, the Kurdish, the Amazigh, the Berbers. There's so many ethnic cleansings that have happened by Arabs against minorities. But when it comes to the Jews, there aren't any left in the Middle East, really. They're very, very tiny populations compared to the almost million that existed.
One of the most important ones here happens in the 19th century, around 1840. Persecution of Jews of Damascus. This was known as the Damascus Affair. It was an instance of blood libel, actual blood libel against Jews, where two individuals were killed, and it was blamed on Jews without any basis. And of course, it resulted in attacks against Jews, discrimination against Jews, fleeing of Jews, flight of Jews, and sent shockwaves around the Jewish world once again once again. Happened every so often that people find something to blame Jews and to attack them. But then the Jews are just supposed to say, oh, no, we live totally peacefully under the Muslim rule. We don't need our own state. We can just live here and have peace and all that. What they mean by peace is that Jews should live as a minority, as subjects, and do whatever the Muslims say and stay in line and never misbehave. Whenever the Muslim population gets the suspicion that the Jews are misbehaving, they would kill a few of them or drive them from here to there and put them in their place. And that is their understanding of peace, because that's what happens throughout history.
I'm just like, as you're talking, I'm just reading some of them. There was like one in 1847. I didn't even remember that one, where there was the Jews who were ethnically cleansed from the old city of Jerusalem. Like, man, get out of here with that BS that we live in peace. We did not live in peace. We lived in peace from the perspective of the Muslim occupiers of this land.
Yes.
That's who lived in peace. But to us Jews, there was never a time of peace. There was always a time of living as a second-class citizen. For those who want to make a claim that Jews lived in relative peace before the state of Israel, sure, there were ebbs and flows. There were times where there was a little bit more peace, at times where there was less. But there was never a time where Jews felt safe in these lands, ever. They never felt truly safe. And when you remember, again, just to bring up personal experience with my family, how Jews actually made it into Babylon in the first place, in Baghdad, in Iraq. Remember, after the destruction of the first temple, which was a documented historical event that happened, not just biblically. I mean, there's archaeological evidence for it. Jews were sold into slavery to Babylon. They were dragged from Jerusalem to Iraq. They weren't from there. And they lived in that community because they felt unsafe going back to Israel. Imagine that that's the story you grow up with. That's the story you know your whole life of where your history is from. I mean, I interviewed my grandfather's oldest brother and his family, and he told me he was 96. He actually just passed away today, unfortunately. This is my great uncle. Yeah, I interviewed him 2 years ago, and he told me something amazing. He told me that, and obviously I have no way to fact check his statement. Like, there's no way for me to like actually check that what he's saying is true. But he told me for 2,000 years, the narrative in our family was next year in Jerusalem, Shana Ba B'Yerushalayim. And he said, no matter what, we were Iraqi, we lived with the Arabs, we had peace with our Muslim neighbors. We always gathered around the table on Shabbat, in the holidays, in the synagogue. We always said, Shana Haba'a B'Yerushalayim. Living as a citizen, knowing you're not from there, that's something that messes with your brain. You know, when you know your story of how you got to this land, it's messed up.
Thank you for sharing that. You know what's so I see nowadays dumb stuff like this. This list just reminds me of the Hebron massacre. But here, just yesterday or so, somebody actually comes into my comment section and says Jews of Israel did this for 75 years on Palestinian people, and then shares a list of so-called massacres. It starts with Hebron Massacre 1929, and I'm thinking to myself, are you fucking kidding me? And I posted in response,
not to laugh at people's deaths, yeah, because any death, truly, it's bad. But like, the list is so clear because there wasn't a Palestinian before that. That identity didn't exist. It's like this wasn't an identity of a person.
And so the first massacre on their list is actually a massacre that is very well known, which is, I replied with, you absolute idiot, and posted this, which is very well known as a massacre against Jews. Against Jews. The Hebron Massacre was the killing of 67 or 69 Jews on August 1929 in Hebron, then part of mandatory Palestine, by Arabs incited to violence by rumors that Jews were planning to seize control of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And this began the expulsion of Jews from Hebron, which was a city where Jews lived in up until this massacre for centuries, for millennia. This was a Jewish city forever. The Jews never left. It was always a Jewish city until these massacres took place, and they were killed, and the rest were forced out or relocated. And this is actually what somebody in my responses is bringing up as a massacre against Palestinians. What in the world, man?
I mean, when you go, you haven't been to Hebron. Oh no, you haven't, because you haven't been to the West Bank.
I haven't been.
Oh, you have been?
No, I haven't been.
Oh.
I haven't been.
So it should be on your list to go, because when you go there, the city is sort of segregated into a Jewish half and a Palestinian half. And the cave of the patriarchs, in Hebrew we call it Ma'arat HaMachpelah, which is where the cave of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is laid. The tombstones, they have them in Hebrew, right? It's where they're supposed to be buried. They have them in Hebrew, but the place itself has been turned into an Islamic mosque. And you have to wonder, I know in the Muslim narrative, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were not Jews. They were Muslims. Of course, they were the first Muslims. But let's be honest, we know when mosques came about. We know when Islamic shrines came about. We have archaeological evidence for it because they don't exist past 2,000 years ago. The fact that the Cave of the Patriarchs is in a mosque tells you everything that you need to know about how colonization by Arab conquestors and Islamic conquestors happened in the Middle East. And it's something that it grinds my gears, man. It gets me crazy because I'm like, the proof is here everywhere you turn. You go around, just look, open your eyes, look at it. Just look at it. It's telling you the story.
Yeah, Black Angel said T-Rex was the first Muslim. This is indeed a very good point.
Allah.
Thank you so much for this beautiful insight, Black Angel.
Thank you, Black.
Let me read a few super chats here. My TV said, any take on the debate with between Mark Lamont and Mossab? I haven't seen it yet. I have to check it out. Mossab crushes it. I'm not sure how he did in the debate, but I have to check it out. Do you know anything about this, Tom?
No, I love Mossab. I'm a huge fan of his stuff, but I haven't seen this debate.
Yeah, need to check it out. Sheikh Yadik says, ironic. Ironic. The same people calling me a Nazi for pointing to possible issues with mass Islamic migration are the people calling for the destruction of the Jewish state. It is so insane how it has become an acceptable thing right now, especially among the leftist people who are supposedly against oppression and all of that, to say Zionism is evil, Israel shouldn't exist. What in the
they've
hell?
been sold a white colonizer lie. That's the thing. Like, people like me don't have a voice with them, and when we do try to talk to them, they silence us. Like, they just don't want to listen to brown Jews talking, because that's all it is. It's color politics now. They just don't want to listen.
It's because you're a white colonizer. See, obviously.
Sorry. Forgot my place. Sorry. Just don't whip me.
Moo Joe said he's white colonizer. Gigi Hadid is a refugee. Colonizer invaders in USA protest against colonization. Black LGBT demands discrimination against other minority. Madness. Absolutely madness. Absolutely. It's so funny to see how in the Middle East, in Israel, the Palestinians protesting are the heavy anti-LGBT, heavy backwardness people who want to see the LGBT crowd dead. And in America, you have these gay guys being like, free Palestine, free Palestine.
My favorite is, there was a video last week, some city in the US where there was like an openly gay LGBTQ supporter who was chased out of one of the crowds by like a woman in a hijab, and she was like, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you, and she's like, shame. And you see the whole thing, and the other person's like, but I just want to support you, I support Palestine, shame on you. It's beautiful. Beautiful cross-culture collaboration. I love it.
It's amazing. That's amazing. I would like to see all the LGBTQ plus community go to the Palestinian territories, maybe go to the West Bank and organize a march there to show their support. Actually, don't go, because I really don't want to see you guys dead. Lil Ragesan made a super chat, which I also call super shekels, where he said, "Can I get one Palestine for free, please?" Yes, if you order one Palestine, you will get one free Palestine.
2 Palestines for the price of one. It's a new deal.
Slaysgate made a super chat. Thank you so much. HD said, love to all the APs from the clans. Hey, that's very nice.
HD's a big supporter. I love you, HD.
Very nice. Oh, very, very lovely to see your community here, and also to have you here again, Tal. And I hope to have conversations again. I'm really loving this. of course, I have to act like this is just friendship. We both know that in the back, it's actually Mossad paying us to collaborate together.
I want everybody to know he yelled at me before the stream started. He if he could have whipped me through the screen, he did. He was like,
Yeah.
Jew, you better get in line and agree to everything I say before we get on here.
I was like, I'm already having a terrible morning, and now I have to talk to a Jew. And
I forgot that was our first conversation ever. Was that? That was our first conversation. That's great. Great way to start a friendship, man.
LE Vegas gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, LE Vegas. I appreciate
Shout
that.
out, LE.
Is it also one of your?
That's
people?
one of mine. That's one of
One
my
of
born
you
and raised.
Nice.
I love it.
Slay Skate said, "Hey AP, would you consider making a video with David Wood talking about people, mostly women in the West, converting to Islam because of Gaza?" Thank you.
Did you just do the Arabic Raza?
Yeah, yes, I did. I did indeed, because it's so much fun. I would, but it feels always so painful to watch those idiots who are like, "Oh my gosh, guys, like I see what's happening, and all these protests, they encouraged me to read the Quran, and I read the first 2 words of the Quran, and now I'm a Muslim." Shut up.
Inshallah, I am a Muslim. Actually, I would love to watch that video of the two of you. David Wood goes deep, man. I love how like he stings when he talks. I love it. I would love to see him do that.
I don't know. He's a Christian though. Because I'm told all the time that the Jews hate Christians, and that you guys would immediately spit on him if you saw him. Like, so I'm not sure.
Did he get spit on a lot in Israel?
Yeah, when we were in Israel, like we were walking through Israel for a week, and like every single day, at the end of the day, he was like full of spit all over his clothes. Were completely wet.
You're taking it out of context, you dirty atheist. It's because we're in the Middle East. It's hot. We were trying to cool him down. It's how we welcome our guests. You're taking it out of context. Don't take our culture out of context.
It's so funny because David and I we're walking through Jerusalem, we're walking through Israel, everywhere, and the entire time he has this very visible cross on here, and everybody is totally nice to him. We go to the wall. We literally go to the Western Wall, and the religious guys there approach us and talk nicely to us and ask us what we're doing and why we're here, and are like, welcome, and I hope you have a good time, and all of that. Ultra Orthodox Jews who are preaching to others are approaching us and are nothing but nice to us. But then David posts a video online, and then there are people who are like, don't you know that they hate you and they spit on you if you walk there? Like, it's just the absolute insanity that people have when it comes to Jews and Israel. There is no limit to it.
People don't realize, like, life is hard in Israel. People don't understand this. Life is really hard for every citizen, whether you're Muslim, Christian, or Jew. It's hard to be in Israel in general. It's a hard life. People don't understand is, like, if you come in here, you wear a penis on your necklace, a cross on your necklace, a crescent star. It doesn't matter, and nobody cares. Like, no one cares. There isn't a concept here in this country of like, oh, there's a foreigner we care about. Like, most people here, they're really just like, you know how many tourists come to Jerusalem? How many Christian groups? I was in the old city today. It was a massive, I think it was an Armenian Christian group. You think anybody was harassing them or spitting on them or bothering? No, nobody cares, man. Do your thing. This is a country for all of us. Everybody's supposed to experience this place. There's history here. There's heritage. Nobody really cares about what you do. Just come do your thing. Just don't preach hate against us, and you're fine. You know?
I showed this recently, but there's a poll asking Israeli Christians how they feel, and 84% 84% of Christians in Israel say they are very satisfied with life in Israel. But then you hear on Twitter somebody's like, no, they hate Christians there. They spit on all the Christians.
It's the only place in the Middle East. Not that I like quoting Bibi Netanyahu often, but he's quoted this a lot, and it is true. It's the only place in the Middle East right now where Christians are thriving, not just surviving,
yes.
thriving, where the numbers are actually growing.
Yes. And by the way, probably the best place for Arabs to live as well. Very ironically. Derp Deb says, hey, could you share what Momo himself said in the hadith about the tree of Gharqad? Is this linked to the pro-Palestinian movement and the from the river to the sea slogan? Love ya both. Thank you. Appreciate it. So what Momo said in the hadith is just what I read, which is that Muslims will fight the Jews and Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and Gharqad tree will not give away the Jews because the Gharqad tree is a Jew. Terrible tree. That's all he said, but he didn't say anything about river to the sea. This is just a stupid narrative by pro-Palestine guys today. Yep. Yes. Jujubee said, don't you think if Hamas is destroyed, another group will take its place? This is one of the big concerns. What do you think about this, Tal?
100%. Like, I mean, we already know that this is the case. I just think at this point, nothing short of like a demilitarized Palestinian society completely. There needs to be like a hardcore demilitarization of the society, and like it's got to be like a Big Brother situation for at least a little while until things calm down, and a massive re-education program to stop another group from forming. Because we learned in Palestinian society, if you let them be, if you just let them exist, Qatar comes in, Iran comes in, influences them, and they become radical. And there's no way to control it. Ironically, the places with the least radicalization of Palestinian society is within Israel's borders. That's where most Palestinians are the least radical. There's a lot of radicalization as well, but they're the least radical there. Leave them to their own devices, they become radical.
Yeah, I posted this thing before, but a Pew poll from many years ago, when asking about Jews, they ask Muslims how they feel about Jews. In Gaza and the West Bank, over 95% say they dislike Jews. Within Israel, over 50 or 60% of Muslims say they like Jews. How does that happen? Apparently, if you live together with Jews.
This is what happens though when you don't ethnically cleanse the Jews. We're really not that bad, you know. Like when you don't remove us from your society violently, completely, then we actually have a chance to get to know us. And you see that like we have a lot of things in common, and that's why cities like Lod exist, Ramle, Haifa, Yafo, places with massive Jewish and Muslim, Arab and Jews exist together, coexist. They get married, they have kids. One of my cousins is married to an Arab. You know, it's like, and it's seen as a normal thing. You know, it's like a normal, democratic, open society.
There is a town, isn't there, close to Jerusalem? I wanted to go there when I was there because I heard of it just when I was there, but didn't have the opportunity. It has an Arabic name. It's known as a town that is a great place of Jewish-Arab coexistence, and it always has been.
Are you talking
Abu Ghosh?
Abu Ghosh?
Yeah, Abu Ghosh, yeah.
Abu Ghosh, I don't think there's many Jews that live there, but it is it's known as the friendliest East Jerusalem or like Jerusalemite Arab town in Israel. People like they go there for hummus, they go there for shopping, to fix their cars. Like there's a lot of coexistence that happens there. Yeah, Abu Ghosh has a great reputation.
I wanted to go there and film something there for the channel. I didn't have the opportunity because when I was in Israel, for some reason, when I was planning the trip, I thought I will have plenty of time to do all kinds of different things. Once I got there, I was just without resting, running around 24/7, sleeping very little, waking up in the morning, drinking 2 cans of energy shot coffee, and then running throughout the day again, and so on. So I didn't have much chance to do anything. It was pretty insane. But that seems like an interesting place to research and look
for
at.
Sure. Well. I watched you and David's whole stream. I think it was like a 4-hour stream when you guys were recapping the trip, and I was like, "Damn, you guys did a lot." But that's the thing about Israel, tiny country, so much to do. I mean, you could spend a lifetime here and not finish everything.
Yeah. There was a funny. It wasn't funny. I always use the word funny when I describe things that are horrible, but it was. I think one of our last days. David wanted to go to Temple Mount and record a few videos, and I was the one who made that possible. I was the one who made time and said, okay, how about we move things around just so that on this day we can go to Jerusalem and we can go to Temple Mount and record your videos, and then once we're done with that we can go back to Tel Aviv and so on. And he was like, yeah, perfect, fantastic, let's do that. And he actually got all the stuff done, but I arranged all of that just on the day as we were driving to have our tour in the Gaza envelope to see all the to see all the places where Hamas attacked. And I kind of didn't anticipate how I would feel afterwards, but we went there and it was really, really messed up. And I don't know, I felt heavily depressed. That was the only time that I actually kind of slept a little bit, because after that I was in a terrible mood. I didn't talk. We went to the hotel. I laid down, couldn't sleep, woke up in the night, stayed up for hours, trying to go back to sleep. In the morning I was just completely dead. David is trying to wake me up. I'm like, just go, do whatever you want. He's like, come on, wake up, we have work to do. I'm like, go away. And that was the first time that I don't know, I was like, just leave me alone, man, go away, do whatever you do, I don't care. And he went without me and did a bunch of recordings at Temple Mount, and there was some very, very rough stuff. We didn't talk about.
It's heavy. It's very heavy. I got taken down there like 2 months ago for the first time. I fundraised with my audience. It was amazing. Like, we did a live stream and raised $1,500 in 20-30 minutes by some of the people who like were donating here. HDLE, they like just dropped hundreds of dollars to get me and a few other people on a bus to go down there to see Kibbutz Be'eri, the Nova Festival. I was 2 days after, I was in a knockout mode. I couldn't function. I was like, it was so heavy, especially the Nova Festival, like seeing what people my age, I'm 27, there's a lot of people who are my age in that place. I know a lot of people who know people who were there, and it's just, it knocks you out. It takes you to another level of a down, because it's just it's so extreme what people experienced down there.
And I understand David, he actually doesn't have these feelings. He actually doesn't feel empathy because he has an antisocial personality disorder. So he couldn't understand how somebody feels after seeing those things, but it is really, really, really messed up. It's one thing to go to a war zone and see people die in a war zone. It's another to go into a zone that was attacked, where terrorists came in directly, confronted and face to face killed civilians, and committed the worst atrocities against them. I have seen footage that I have still not shown to anybody, and that is still not really very much public, just because Israel or Israelis have this this attitude of not playing the victim and not putting all of the stuff out there. And because I was told one specific thing, which is that Israelis already feel a great deal of suffering after October 7, and publishing some things over and showing it to everyone might just lead to a big sense of demoralization and defeatism, and we don't want to do that. So I thought, yeah, I think everyone should see everything that happened, but I understand your point of view. I get it. So I just left it at that. But you see how, I mean, we went into a home where the terrorists opened the door by shooting at it, by shooting endless, numerous holes into the wall and the doors. They shoot at a children's room. You go into the room. There's a bunk bed with little kids, all kinds of toys everywhere. and the door is full of bullet holes. They go inside, they execute the man inside the house on site. They take the woman with them, possibly sexually assault the woman and then kill her somewhere along the way. Kidnap the children. I don't know. It was just, I don't want to go back to it, but we'll talk about it again. I'll put stuff about that out there. Still needs to be done. We can't forget.
It's really important, man. By the way, I personally appreciate it. Besides all the amazing things you do for Israel, talking about this stuff and keeping it fresh and like mentioning it. The shirt that you're wearing right now, like our common friend who put us together, Brian, he was a big part of that movement of the campaign behind it. It's so important to me personally, and I huge debt of gratitude to you for talking about it. I really appreciate it.
It's the least I can do. Wish I could do more and want to do more. Definitely. Thank you. Nick said, have you guys seen Admiral General Aladdin get confronted by an Israeli journalist?
Do you know Admiral General Aladdin?
I do.
He's the dictator of Wadia.
Oh yeah, okay. That's the reference. Yeah. Aladdin. Is it Aladdin or Aladdin? The stupid ideas.
You are Aladdin positive.
He's so self-obsessed that he changes the meaning of positive and negative into Aladdin and Aladdin, and then nobody knows what is positive and what's negative.
You were HIV. Oh yeah, it was HIV Aladdin, and the guy's like.
TV Talk with Avi said, you might have answered this before, but what religion were you raised and what do you follow now, if anything? Me, I was raised as a Muslim, as a Sunni Muslim in a Sufi order, and I am an atheist at this moment. I might have some more words about that. I don't know. I have been a little bit in a kind of a conflicting place ever since actually I went to Israel and came back in terms of
Really?
belief.
Did it have an effect on your spirituality?
I have been I have been kind of waiting to sit down and talk about it once I understand myself better. But it's been months now since we went there and came back, and I'm still kind of in a weird place. One thing that happened. So one thing that happened was we went to the Western Wall, and as we were there, it felt very overwhelming. And I can't say that it was definitely a spiritual thing. It's probably also everything else that is attached to it. My feelings for Israel and the Jewish people and for this place and all that. But one of the things was how my experience in Israel was how everyone was just amazing, and people were wonderful and so nice. And I mean, even on the plane, on the flight back, like on Twitter, somebody's telling me, "Oh, they hate you. They will never accept you because they are Jews. Hate everyone else." And then I'm on the plane, and this guy comes to me. Those guys on the plane who are going around and asking if you observe tefillin. This guy comes to me and says, "Oh, do you do tefillin?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Or have you ever done it?" I'm like, "No, I'm not Jewish." And he's like, "Oh," and then he just goes like this, and that's it, And but then I go online and people are like, "No, if you're not a Jew, they will hate you and all that," and it's just so ridiculous, man. The contrast between how people view Jews and how Jews actually act, and it just I told David, it doesn't make sense to me at all. It is so absurd that these people are wonderful, are so nice, are so kind, and so open-minded, and yet they are so badly, terribly maligned and slandered around the world. It's as if there is something bigger at play here, because it doesn't make sense. Because it doesn't. People don't hate these people because of the way they are. There must be something else, and I don't know.
It's not rational, the hate that we get. By the way, the person who probably asked you that question, about the tefillin came probably from the Chabad background, which Chabad is just, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful parts of our group of people. They're like the most open-minded, most welcoming. Doesn't matter if you're a Jew or not a Jew. They're just there to like basically enlighten people and help people understand who we are. They're, in my opinion, in this day and age, they have some crazy theories as well. They're not perfect. They believe like the rabbi from 770 was the Messiah, and he's like the end of the world is coming for him. But still, and I respect it all. You know, I consider myself a Chabad Jew. Like I pretty much exclusively go when I go to synagogue. I pray at Chabad. I think they're doing such a service to the Jewish world by like treating people like you. They find out that you're not a Jew, and instead of being like, oh, because there are Jews who will do that. Yeah, they do exist. They're a minority, but they do it. But instead, when they see somebody like you who is not Jewish, asking to give you a high five, make you feel welcomed, let you know that like it doesn't matter, like you're welcome here as well, because that's what this place should be. You know, it should be open to everyone. And Avi, by the way, he's one of mine. I fucking love that guy. He's the homie.
Nice. Somebody brought it up earlier, but who was that? Wait a minute, who was that? There was a super chat earlier. But yeah, so anyway, in terms of the whole belief thing, that is just one of those things. It's not the main reason, but it's one of those things that kind of sent me into this whole spiral of thinking about things further. But yeah, I kind of want to lay that topic to rest in public and talk about it later at some point. Somebody earlier said, before I go, can you ask him about Ezra? So I want to do that. Oh yeah, Lauren Plitt said, please bring up Ezra because that's my biggest LOL. Yeah, so why do Jews believe that Ezra is the son of God, and why do you worship Ezra? Can you tell? I don't know how to frame this stupid question. But
one second. This is the only Ezra I know. That's my grandpa, the Iraqi one I was talking about earlier. His name was Ezra. That's me as a baby. Look at me. Look how nice. I look like a little jungle boy.
Very nice.
That's the only Ezra I worship. That's I don't even know the reference. I might be a bad Jew. I mean, I'm not religious. I'm fairly knowledgeable. I don't know. I don't even understand the reference. That's the only Ezra I know.
This is funny because this is one of the things that we heard that Jews would say when we were there. David brought it up to somebody because I had this idea to go around and ask Jews why they worship Ezra and what they would say and how absurd it would be. And somebody said, if you go around and ask Jews about Ezra, they would say the only Ezra that I know is, this one guy that I know. And this is basically the response that you just gave.
This is the first I'm hearing of it. When you said Ezra, like Ezra to me is my grandpa. It's like my best friends in my life before he passed away.
I'm serious. You can hear this on stream. Like David brought this up in the past, and he mentioned several times how this is what he was told people would say in response if he asked this question. So you did exactly what we were told would happen.
It's the Mossad money, man. Can you enlighten me though? What is Ezra? I don't know.
So there is a thing in the Quran.
It's from the Holy Quran.
So after chapter 9, verse 29, which is the one that says, fight against those who don't believe in Allah or in the last day and who don't consider unlawful what Allah and his messenger have made unlawful and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who were given the scripture. This refers to Christians and Jews. So if they don't accept Islam, then fight them until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. And then in 9:30, it says the following. The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. That is their statement from their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieve before them. May Allah destroy them. Now, when people read this, they say, okay, when it says Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah, we understand what it's saying. It says Christians think Jesus is the Messiah and he's the son of Allah. All right, we get it. But what in the world does it mean when it says the Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah? And it appears that the author of the Quran here made a mistake or misunderstood something and came to the conclusion that Jews have this belief that Ezra is the son of Allah and they worship Ezra. And nobody nobody knows what in the world this is based on, because there is no single trace of a single Jewish person or group that ever held such a belief.
I think Ezra was a biblical character, but I don't.
Yeah, he was a
significant.
scribe who is also responsible for, I guess, restoring and upholding the temple and all that, or for a practice of the temple. But he doesn't play a significance in terms of ever being considered the son of God or being an object of worship. This is just completely ridiculous. And people have been arguing about this forever. So
somebody wrote here in the comments, Ezra, the Jewish god of speed. That's hilarious.
Man. Ezra was the first Zionist. Ezra is scribe, but is not the son of God. Yeah, so there was probably a misunderstanding on what Jews believe about Ezra by Muhammad or somebody else. So this made it into the Quran, but it doesn't make any sense at all. And this is also further confirmed in a narration about Muhammad, where Muhammad says that after they die, Allah will ask the Jews, "What did you worship?" And they will say, "We worshipped Ezra." And he will then say, "Okay, go to hell." But it doesn't make any sense because there are no Jews who believe in such a thing. So it's ridiculous.
Very interesting. Ezra means in Hebrew, by the way, Ezra means help. Ezra. It's like that's the or like to help. But I'm trying to find some rationale to justify the Islamic narrative, but I really can't with this one. It's kind of hard. Nobody can.
You ask rabbis and they're like, no idea what's going on
here. That's a funny one.
The funny thing is people don't know about this kind of stuff, and Jews and many rabbis don't know about this kind of stuff because we talked about this before. Jewish culture and rabbis just don't have a history or a tradition of arguing with other religions or defending Judaism against other religions, which is why Jewish people are generally unaware of what Islam says. But Islam acts like Jews are all obsessed with Muslims, which is very funny. You know?
It's always my biggest quarrel with like the Islamic narrative or any other religion that's come up to sort of conquest or like take over or mass convert people. Is like people don't know. We don't think in that way. Like we're very much in our own circle because we don't see Christianity or Islam or any other religion as like a competition or something we need to aspire to be like, or it just doesn't. You don't grow up with those concepts. You don't learn about Christianity and Islam. You don't learn about the characters in their books. You just stick in the pool of Judaism. That may be a bad thing, and maybe we should have a more widened view, but I think it proves the case of our innocence more than anything else. Like we're not really looking to know or argue about this stuff.
Yeah. Halloumi Cheese made a super shekel and said, how did Iran, Hamas, and proxies manage to romanticize the concept of Islamic jihad around the world? It is a mystery, but just by playing the victim and appealing to the Western idea of oppressor and oppressed. That's the easiest explanation.
The West sort of came up recently, the last like 20 years with these concepts, and the Islamic world sort of went hand in hand with it. While they're complete opposites, they grew together this beautiful cooperation without even knowing.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Gender mapper. I lived in a village near East Jerusalem. I travel home at night on the light rail with my hand on my weapon. I am a woman and I lie in my bed thinking, are savages coming to rape me tonight? Stay strong. All the best to you. This reminds me of somebody that I talked to, a very young woman when I was in Israel. She grew up in a settlement that is actually a very small one, a very small town. I don't know. She told me the stories, and I still have them on recording, but she didn't want to be on video. She was way too shy. So I had a conversation, an audio recording conversation, which I still want to kind of put out at some point, but I don't know exactly how I want to do it. Any ideas are totally welcome. but she grew up in a village, in a town where, and she's very young, but their house was set on fire when she was like 13 years old or so by people just throwing Molotovs and things like that over a fence. And then they lost their home, had to go back, had to go somewhere else, and then return after a year or so. And then just a few years later, I think this thing happens where their next door neighbor, somebody climbs over a fence and breaks into their home and kills their family members by cutting their throats with a knife. And this happens next door. And I don't know, it's quite traumatizing stuff. I probably should publish all these things, but people go through some really, really messed up stuff in this region.
Dude, my parents grew up in a very fucked up situation. Like, I was on a live stream maybe 2-3 weeks ago. My mom is visiting here in Israel. Like, I haven't seen her in 2 years, so we've been hanging out a lot. And she happened to be in the same room as me in the stream, and I have this recorded on live. Wasn't planned out. Wasn't some weird YouTuber stuff. It was towards the end of my stream. An ambulance siren was just hanging out a little bit too close to the building for a little bit too long. And my mom freaked out. Like, she started running around the house like, it's happening, attack, the Iran attack. It was before the Iran attack, when all the hype was building up. And she did this like live on my stream, and my whole audience got like, we were all silenced because I was like, look, this is a woman who's almost in her 60s, who's dealing with a serious generational trauma, not only from what her parents dealt with, like my grandparents, but what she grew up in through all these wars, all the intifadas she lived through as a kid here in Israel. Like, people here are seriously, they show a very good face on the outside, but everyone here is traumatized to a certain extent. And it's a traumatization that's based off of an ethnic or a desire to ethnically cleanse. Palestinians' trauma is real too. Yeah, people they go through horrific things. They have been going through horrific things. I can also sympathize with that, but Palestinians don't have a fear of being ethnically cleansed. Arabs don't have a fear of being ethnically cleansed. When Jews fight, or the fear that they feel is an actual fear for survival. It's a fear of, whoa, there's a lot of people out here who want to see us go away completely. And that's like the type of fear that like I was raised with, of like, you know, one day somebody might try to kill you just because you're a Jew.
Yeah. That is the reality and the ways of the world. Tanky said, I saw a video of the IDF handing out supplies to Palestinians when Hamas refused to help them. Is there any way to donate to the IDF for Gaza? I'm not sure if there's a way to specifically do that, but there are ways to.
There's Friends of the IDF, FIDF, great organization. You can also sponsor individual soldiers. Like this week on my channel, we raised over $1,000 for a really good friend of mine who's a soldier in Gaza. But you can find causes like this all over Israel just by contacting organizations like Friends of the IDF. Brothers for Life is another great organization who are all trying to support either soldiers or veterans or current operations that are happening. So 100%, there's tons of ways to still donate. Actually coming here physically and volunteering your time is a great help as well.
But is there a fund or anything for IDF efforts to actually distribute aid in Gaza or anything like that? Or because the thing is, what they're doing is they're distributing aid that is already coming to Gaza, and they're prevented from doing so by Hamas. So you can't.
I'll say that I'll not to doubt the commenter who wrote this super chat, but I don't think there's any sort of official efforts by the IDF right now to hand out food. That might have been a fluke effort that somebody happened to catch on camera. But I think right now the IDF is they're not handling, from my knowledge, not handling any distribution of aid. That's all being handled by like the Red Crescent, the UN, and all the organizations that don't have their shit together right now, like trying to hand out supplies. But,
yeah, all they're doing, to my knowledge, is that they're generally at points of distribution, the IDF is standing by to oversee the distributions, because there have been lots of
monkeys
instances
from Hamas keep trying to come in and
yeah.
I mean, you've seen the video, you see them like riding on top of the trucks, like shooting at their own civilians.
Yes. Oh, you have videos out there even proudly being shared by people who are supporters of Hamas, throwing rocks at aid trucks and trying to stop them and things like that, and then they blame it on Israel. So messed up. PC, it was always Jewish land. Judea is its ancient name. This is true. It was known as Judea, or in Latin as Judea, and so on. Long, long time ago, even by the Romans themselves.
Amen.
Top,
Amen, baby.
even the Romans themselves called it like that. You better believe
Nice.
it.
That's a good. Get a little American twinge in that one, eh?
Yeah. Doing my best. Top Viral says, peace and love from Jerusalem, the forever capital of the Jewish people. Peace and love back to Jerusalem. I loved Jerusalem when I was there. Loved it very, very much. Although we had a disagreement with David. He was like, I would totally come and live here. And I thought, I get it. I understand it. And I would love to come here to visit every now and then, but I'm not sure if I want to come and live here, because it's like, it seems to be a place.
It's great. It's a very intense place. I love Jerusalem. Crazy about that city. It's one of my favorite cities. I travel to it often. I love the food scene there. I love the people there. But living there, it's a bit crazy. It's a little too intense.
Yeah, and people on both sides, both in the Arab East Jerusalem and the more modern West Jerusalem, both sides told me this is a very good place to visit, not necessarily a great place to live. So because there are always tensions. There's always like this whole idea of, oh no, center of attention of the world. But fantastic food, man. I had some of my greatest food dinners there. There was actually a restaurant. There was like a seafood restaurant. I forgot its name that we went to, where I had the best seafood that I've ever tasted in my entire life.
In Jerusalem.
Yeah, in Jerusalem.
Wow. Do you like like Middle Eastern Mediterranean food? Do you connect with the like?
I do. I love shawarma, for example. I loved it. I ate it almost every day when I was there.
Yeah, the shawarmas, specifically in Jerusalem, shawarmas are fire, man. If you come again, bro, I gotta take you to have some like Iraqi Jewish food. It'll drive you crazy. It's so good.
I should. That'll be good. That'll be good. That'll be nice.
Yeah, man.
That would be nice. One of the amazing experiences that I actually personally had was so one day I left David in Tel Aviv to do some stuff, and I had to go to Jerusalem to actually have an interview with Fleur. And after I was done, I was just looking to get back to Tel Aviv again, but then I thought, hey, you know what? How about I take a little bit of time and just walk around Jerusalem. And I walked around East Jerusalem and the old city a lot. I thought, how about I go to the western part and look at the modern city of Jerusalem? And I went there, and it was fascinating to walk through this place. It felt like I was walking through a European city, like I was walking through a place in Italy or something. It was wonderful. It was so developed, was so mixed with all kinds of people of different skin colors, contrary to popular belief. And that was also the place where I first saw so many, more than one instances of like younger girls, for example, were obviously Muslim and obviously Jewish girls just being friends and walking together and going shopping and things like that. Meanwhile, I go on Twitter and people are acting like Israel is hunting down Arabs. And
yeah, I think you guys made a video in the old city about the apartheid, right? The dangerous, crazy. Man, it drives me crazy every time I'm in Jerusalem and I see like a rich Arab girl in a hijab driving a Cadillac or a Mercedes or a BMW, and I'm like, apartheid what? Where's the fucking apartheid, bro? What are you trying to sell me on? Where is this happening elsewhere in the Middle East?
The only apartheid we witnessed was when we were walking through the old city, and we were walking in a certain direction, and then we were stopped by police, and they were like, "Are you guys Muslim?" We're like, "Nope." Like, okay, you can't go this way. You have to turn around. I'm like, "Oh, see, apartheid, discrimination, right there."
I agree. I think it's super messed up. By the way, I've had that same experience. I've tried going up to the Temple Mount. I've never been before. I want to go, and I know that there's a way to do it, but I've actually tried to test that theory of going through that specific road that leads to it. And every time they stop me, they're like, "Are you Muslim?" I'm like, I'm not a Muslim, and like, you can't come up here. You're not allowed. I'm like, how is that's the apartheid? That's it right there.
Yeah, please turn around. You can't go this way. This is apartheid. Don't you know?
And that's
Get
us
out of
doing
here.
it. That's Israel enforcing apartheid against Jewish people, because it's the Jordanian Waqf that owns that place, but it's us that's we don't have to enforce that. Like, that's a weird agreement that we have with Jordan that doesn't really make any sense, in my opinion, and we do not have to abide by that. We have sovereignty over Jerusalem. We should allow everyone of every faith to pray up there.
Yeah, but sorry, I'm just trying to plug in my light here, which went on.
No worries. Oh, did your light got disconnected?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that it got dark in the background all of a sudden at some point.
Oh, there it is.
There we are.
Yeah, it is Israel itself imposing restrictions on the Jewish people and saying, hey, stay out, we don't want to cause problems here. But hey, of course, Israel is discriminating against everyone else, apparently. Apparently. Sigal Alon says, hi, AP and Tal. Double treat seeing you guys together. Glad I'm able to join the live now. Israel. Thank goodness for Sound of Sanity during these crazy times. Thank you both for sounding the truth. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Much respect and much love to Israel. We will definitely come together. I'm really enjoying this conversation and collaboration. Tal, very nice to meet you.
Super fun conversation.
Noam MKW, where is David Quds?
Is that David Wood's name on your channel? David Kutz?
Not until now. I had no idea about this. This just happened.
David Kutz.
He's sleeping. Actually, I'm going to have a live stream with David later today as well. In about, I don't know how late, but sometime later. We're going to talk about, in America, Congress just passed a law called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. And what it actually is about is defining anti-Semitism in the Department of Education when students, like Jewish students, come and say, I am being discriminated against based on anti-Semitism. And then they define what anti-Semitism is. Like, for example, when somebody says, oh, you get out of here, you Jews, that you kill babies and drink their blood, then this is anti-Semitism. However, this is being completely taken out of context right now and presented as if the American Congress just passed a law restricting people from criticizing Jews or criticizing Israel, which is not what's happening. But that's what they're making it look like. And people like Tucker Carlson are sharing that kind of stuff and like riling thousands of people against the government and against Israel and Jews. This is the environment.
We're not even allowed to, at this point, we're not even allowed to feel like we're being targeted. It's like, you have to be targeted, you have to be talked down to, get kicked out of these campuses, have all this stuff against you, like literally like Nazi-esque propaganda and enforcement of like anti-Jew entrances into universities and colleges, and you're not even allowed to like feel it. You're not allowed to feel like you're being treated badly.
Yeah. It's very, very messed up what's happening, but we're going to talk about it tonight and try to give our commentary on that and see what happens. People are vile. Chrome said, Ani Mishpacha, one of our greatest allies, together at last. What does that mean, Ani Mishpacha? Who is that? What is that?
Mishpacha means family. Annie, I don't know why he wrote Annie, but maybe he tried to say we're family. Chrome is one of my peeps as well, a lovely guy.
Nice.
Yeah. Mishpacha is family. So
nice. Okay, I knew I heard that before. Y'all vibe great on the live stream together. Indeed, yes. This is very, very nice. Thank you. Sid Dave said, why do Jewish people not actively come out to refute Islamic doctrines like Abraham traveling to Mecca? They have appropriated your figures as their own. I have my own take on why Jews don't engage in any of this kind of stuff, but is there anything you want to say about that, Tal?
I'll say it openly. I think most Jews don't know, and the ones who do know don't care. That's the reason why.
That's exactly. I was just going to say because Jews just don't care, but
yeah,
that's
like
pretty much it.
You couldn't get most Jews to care enough about doing that, because like we it's just not, it's not taught in our circles. Maybe you have a point. Maybe it should be. Like, maybe it should be, and maybe we should take a stance against it. I sort of do it in my work where I'm like, listen, at least I want it to be acknowledged that we're being colonized, ethnically cleansed, and subjugated to like second-class citizenship. But it's not just Jews; it's all these ethnic minorities. But I don't. I think for the majority of Jews, they just don't care. Uninvolved.
There's also a tradition in among this is historical. Be it in the so-called the tolerant Andalusian Islamic rule, where supposedly everything was wonderful, be it there or anywhere else, it was a tradition in Jewish communities and among rabbis to say, preserve each other, look out for each other, keep a low profile, avoid getting into discussions and fights with people over religion, because you might just endanger yourselves and endanger your community. Just don't do it. And it has been kind of a tradition to continue doing that. And it's understandable, because Jews have been minorities among other people and wanted to prevent just getting nitpicked and blamed and killed over random things. So they haven't developed this whole idea of we should just argue and defend ourselves against all kinds of claims. Understandable.
A good indication too, by the way, is our places of worship. Like, look at a mosque and look at a church. You know, mosque, massive minaret, huge dome, calling out to prayer publicly for everybody who's in there 5 times a day. Church, ringing the bells, giant tower generally. Synagogue is usually a box. A synagogue is just a room. Doesn't need to be. There are some extravagant synagogues, but 99% of the time, it's just a room. We don't care about making the whole world know about us. We're comfortable just being in our little circle.
Yep. Chad Matt says, Allah commands me to give you the doner kebab.
I mean,
you can't get it. I can't even have a doner kebab today. Sheikh Yadik says, planting me some Gharqad trees and purchasing a 95 to do my part to protect the Jews. Nice.
Shukran, ya habibi. Shukran, Sheikh Yadik.
Dave, in order to expose Islam, we need a Mo movie so that people can visually see what he did, and his marriage with Aisha Zainab. Muslims would be humiliated. I think I'm totally for making a movie about the life of Muhammad, but it would be very problematic.
Yeah, that would be like an actual death wish, huh? Like you could get really targeted with that.
Yeah. Here's the thing. People know that I was working at some point on a series, and I published only one episode of it called The Prophet Tales, which I found personally hilarious. I wrote the whole script and did it together with a guy named Saiten, who did all the cartoon and animation and all that. And I was going to continue with that to create eventually a whole movie about Muhammad's life in cartoon form. However, after October 7, Saiten and I fell apart a little bit, because it turns out, and he never told me about this, he just stopped responding to me. It turns out that he doesn't like Israel and doesn't like Jews, and he sides with white nationalist, conspiracy theorist kinds, with Nazis and things like that, which is why he kind of broke up with me without telling me. So that project has been kind of on pause. It's not going to continue. I kind of want to hire somebody else to do that together at some point, but yeah.
I'm sorry your romance with him went down the drain, but maybe a good good breakup sex could be doing it with a Jew. You know, continuing the series with a Jew.
That's a good idea. Maybe.
I would hop on board with that. It could be good revenge.
Like that could be a good thing. Let's see.
Yeah.
Chad Mann said Kosovo is Serbia. Wow.
I'm involved in this conversation.
Please leave me out of this as well.
Don't leave me out.
I went to Serbia, and I don't want to know anything else about this.
Same. I did Kosovo and Serbia. And I don't want to be involved.
That's a whole mess. Sid Dave said Israelis should challenge Palace to win a Nobel Prize in science, not peace. And if they do, they get the entire land back. 1948 border. What say? I don't know. Sounds problematic.
I think there's a better. I think our odds are higher with peace than science at this point.
All colors are intoned in black. Said, if you want to know about a land that is currently really being colonized, ask me. I'll explain. It's unknown stuff. Explain it, please. Human Kirk said, so the Palestinian admits to be a irony is that Masri, which he uses over and over again, is itself the Arab colonial name for Egypt. Yeah, I think Egypt was originally known as what was it? Kemet something. I think it's a KMT word. Not sure if I remember it correctly. Not sure where the name Misr comes from.
Well, in here, called it Mitzrayim, but yeah, I don't think that's the actual Egyptian name for it.
But that actually makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in the Arabic, a lot of it stemmed from Hebrew as well. So
yeah.
That's probably where my came from.
I looked into this many years ago. I need to see. But the ancient Egyptian name of the country was KMT, Kemet, which means black land, likely referring to the fertile black soil of the Nile flood plains, distinct from the Deshret, the red land, or the desert. Huh. Yeah.
Interesting.
Where does Masr come from? Late Memphis, meaning home of the Masr, Arab pronunciation. Masr is the classical Quranic Arabic and modern official name of Egypt, while Masr is the local pronunciation in Egyptian Arabic, which comes from Semitic origin, directly cognate with other Semitic words for Egypt, such as the Hebrew Mitzrayim. The oldest attestation of the name for Egypt is Akkadian Misru, related to Misru, meaning border or frontier. Okay, well, learning a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
From old Akkadian. Wow, interesting. TV Talk with Avi says traveling clot is the goat dropping truth bombs. Pardon the pun, LOL.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. David the Goliath, if Egyptian Muslims are indigenous to Egypt, Iranian Muslims are indigenous to Iran, then how are Palestinians not indigenous to Palestine? They are most likely Jewish Christian converts to Islam who were Arabized. It's not really that easy. Egyptian Muslims are actually not completely native to Egypt. They are very mixed. The ones who, I think from a genetic viewpoint, are the most connected to the ancient Egyptians are the Copts, the Coptic Christians, who still preserve certain aspects of ancient Egyptian culture, and also the Nubians down in the south. In Iran, Iranians are actually ethnically very mixed since the Arab conquests. They used to be more connected genetically to Western Greek European people, and became mixed with Arab people after the Islamic conquests. Same thing happened with people in the Levant overall, in Palestine. Looking at them today, of course, there are genetic connections to ancient populations. Of course, there are connections to ancient populations of the land in Levantine people all around. But there's also a lot of Southern Arab, Central Arab, Western, North African, South African genetics and influence. It's just not that simple. It's not that easy.
I think there's a big claim to be made. Like a lot of Palestinians in the West Bank, they for sure have high percentages of Judean DNA. There's no doubt. Like they do. The idea is, it's not just about embracing a religion. It's about embracing colonization. It's like if Native Americans became Americanized, right, by like the white European settler colonial stuff that happened there, how are we okay with accepting what Arabification has happened to the Samaritan community, the West Bank Christians, the Nazarene Christians, the Lebanese Christians, all these communities that were Christian, spoke Aramaic until those first caliphates came and took control over the region. It's like, why are we okay with one colonization and not okay with the other? People need to wake up to the truth. Arabification of this entire region of North Africa and the Middle East, it doesn't make sense. This whole region shouldn't be just one people group. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. So you guys need to wake up to that stuff.
The whole idea of being like genetically pure and belonging to a certain people is also not entirely. It's not very thorough and it's not very scientific. I also, from a Jewish perspective, there is an article that I recommend, which is it's on My Jewish Learning, and it's called "Are Jews a Race?" And it goes into how it is being historically viewed and from a Jewish perspective and all of that. And the idea is basically that the actual Jewish idea is not that Jews are a race. So the short answer would be no, but rather that Jews are a nation and a people with a long common history. So would always recommend looking at that to get an idea. Doron Berger says 1919 Palestine Congress text. We are not Palestinians, we are Syrians. There was a Congress which was called the First Palestine Arab Congress. Very interesting information on just on the name here, by the way. Palestine to them meant the region, and they specify Arab Congress. So the Arabs of the region, Palestine. That's how it was seen forever. Until recently, they started changing it into, oh, we are Palestinians, indigenous. But during that first Palestine Arab Congress, they explicitly refused to be separated as an entity, and they considered themselves South Syrians who should be one with a greater Syria and not a separate Palestinian entity, and that this is a colonialist idea. Nowadays, they accept this colonialist idea as if it was the truth. Back then, the first Arabs talking on the matter were seeing themselves as Syrians. Good stuff.
Look at the Pan-Arab flag and read about the Pan-Arab dream, and you'll learn a lot of uncomfortable truths about what the current name. When I uncovered that box, I couldn't unsee it. It's like that flag and the Pan-Arabism, the ideology of unifying under one Pan-Arab state, similar to Yugoslavia, that did not work for the Balkans. It would have never worked for the Arab world. You have to read about that stuff to understand. Like, anybody who's listening to this right now, please read about Pan-Arabism. It's the cancer of what caused the issues in the Middle East, in my opinion.
Yes. I just realized I think I have to go. But let me finish these quickly. Human Kirk said, so the Palestinian admits to be an Arab colonist. Ironically, Masri, which he uses to describe his origins. Didn't I just read this? I just did.
I think, yeah.
What's wrong with me? Zainab Al-Harith said, finally on my time zone. Yes. I should do this more often. TV Talk with Avi said, traveling clad my baby. Mossad's letter strap. I've sent you a meme on Twitter to help convince the West. Alhamdulillah. I'll have a look at it. I just realized I have to go and pick up my kid. I completely forgot, because this is a beautiful conversation, and I'm just so I forgot the rest of the world. You see Tal?
It's the Jewish hypnotism. I've been
hypnotized all the time. See? I have been hypnotized by the Jews. They're controlling me so much that I forgot about picking up my kid. Leica said, atheist, agnostic, and secular Jews are fairly common. It's about practice and custom. You're welcome if you want to convert. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Inshallah.
Inshallah. I will think about this. Inshallah. Michael says, if you have to choose between 1.6 billion Muslims and Ezra, who do you choose? You have to know the context about these jokes to give an answer to this question.
Ezra, 110% all day, every day. I got my Ezra. Do you have yours?
Lev Lavi said, figured it out. Ezra is Ezra, which in Hebrew is a bad goat, which is the devil. So we Jews worship the devil, and God is not fond of it. So,
I didn't even think about that. Ezra, that's so good. It's an evil goat.
That's funny. This is funny.
Great.
I just learned something, see? Zainab Al-Harith says, Moshab on JP mentioned that he wrote a book on the life of Muhammad, a positive narrative, which confuses me. Yeah, I'll have to see that. I have to see what he wrote about Muhammad.
You throw me off sometimes with your accent, man.
Well, talking about Muhammad right there. All right, I gotta go. Hey, Tal, amazing to meet. We are in touch. We are messaging each other anyway. We should do something again soon, also together with David and all that. So,
inshallah, brother. It was really, thank you for having me on. Thanks to everybody who's been so awesome in the live chat, and huge thanks to you, man. I appreciate it a lot. Super fun.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very, very, very glad, very honored to have you here. Anything else you want to say within 3 words before we leave?
Subscribe to my channel. That's it.
Oh yeah, plug. Yes, subscribe to his channel. Why am I suddenly so dark? Subscribe to his channel, not to my channel. Subscribe to his channel. Subscribe to Tal's channel, The Traveling Clad. It's linked right there in the title and also in the description. Go subscribe, go subscribe, go subscribe. This is amazing. And we'll see each other again. And Am Israel Chai.
Am Israel Chai.
Yeah. Thanks and bye.